Alrighty, we are live. Let's give people a minute or two to come on in, and I will make sure that the stream is up. Okay. Yeah, see, you see how it's like going in and out, like your camera's going in and out for some reason. Are you
Yeah,
still
it's
doing stuff on
interesting.
your side?
But yeah, I mean, like
Oh, see.
my regular stream is like perfectly fine over here. It's like it's constantly on, but I don't know what's
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Well, hopefully it won't be too much of an issue.
as long as I'm connected, then I'm good.
Yeah.
Then
we'll just
we'll just work with
It's like,
we'll just work
hey,
with it.
Lex may ghost occasionally, but don't worry. You can, as long as you can hear him.
Don't say it. Don't tell people I ghost them, okay? Because that'll be a horrible reputation on me, you know.
I actually think it might be me going back and forth with Google or something. So I'm gonna leave it alone, and we'll see. Hopefully everything's good. Let me just grab my phone, and like I said, we will give people the chance to come in, and we'll get started. Oh, okay. Don't know if I showed you my phone case before. I got a new phone, so I got a new case.
Ooh, very
I'm sure
nice.
you will be shocked as to what is on it. Uh, but yep,
Oh, gee, so shocked.
I know, I know. Couldn't have guessed it in a million years.
I like that. I like that you use the Advent Children mod.
Oh no, actually I didn't. It's just really dark. But I do like the Advent Children mod. I should have. I don't think. But see, it would have been too dark for this. Because it's
Oh,
already
okay,
dark enough.
okay.
You can barely even tell if it's not in person. It's hard to
Oh,
tell.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I can see her. I can see her
the
original
white
shirt.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Supernova. What's up, Cloudy Nation? Hey.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Oh, we are just getting started. How you been doing, Super? I know we're gonna find time to get together, girl. This is actually a good week for me. I'm kind of in between projects at work, so you know, it's just a matter of hitting me up. Long week. It's only Tuesday too.
Yeah, ain't we supposed to have like a Friday off at least this week?
I wouldn't. I wish, but well, it just depends on your job. But no, I don't get Easter off.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm honestly, I'm not even aware if I've ever gotten like a good Friday off.
Interesting, because it's in Canada. It's or at least in Ontario. I'm sure Canada too. It's like it's like a stat holiday. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
I don't think it is. Maybe for the banks and stuff, but I don't know about
yeah.
regular jobs. Yeah, but yeah. Ooh, all right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. People, as people start trickling in, I'm sure they'll catch up to the conversation. We're just going to be recapping what we kind of talked about last week anyway,
Mhm.
and then moving forward. So, of course, this is your girl Stygian Stilettos Gamer, aka Stygian Sis. I have with me someone you might recognize from some previous streams that I did, Lex Tan. Lex Tan, how are
Hello.
you?
I'm doing well. Just really busy these days with everything that's happening for me right now. Getting back into the music gigs, getting back into or continuing the wrestling show. We just came off an amazing and tumultuous WrestleMania as well. So yeah, looking forward to talking about that this week on Ringside Heat.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, Lex is very much into wrestling. I actually caught some wrestling. This might have been last week. You know, I used to watch it a lot when I was a kid, and I found myself not being able to pull away from it when it was just like on randomly in some
Mhm, mhm,
restaurant I
mhm.
was in. I just kept staring at it. I
Nice.
was like, this is really interesting. Completely new people, didn't recognize anybody, but it was very entertaining, I have to say.
Oh yeah.
So I've been thinking about possibly starting to dabble back into wrestling, so I might have to hit you up on that.
Hey, you know what? I'm an open book when it comes to that. So yeah, and I'm thinking of actually taking some wrestling courses.
Ooh.
Come the springtime, I need to get my physical activity back up. So as they say, when you want to go and work out, you'll work out the things that you want that you will enjoy, as opposed to like getting on the treadmill and just like, oh, this is such a drudge, and it's like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
sure I'll be falling on my back a lot, and sure I'll be like in a little bit more pain than like than if I was on the treadmill. But hey, I'll enjoy the pain.
I absolutely agree. I definitely want to get back into belly dancing and maybe some salsa dancing and stuff like that, just for the same reason. Something that you're interested in is always a good thing. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, all right. So we are here for more traces of two paths, which you also see right here, on your side, right here.
I took out the dust cover on mine for now.
Yes, yes. I actually, it's funny because I bought. Well, I had pre-ordered a copy, and I pre-ordered the Kindle because, as you'll see here, it's just a lot easier, especially when you're streaming or you just want to make notes and you don't want to tear up your own copy.
Mhm.
So I got the Kindle, and now you can notate and stuff in it, so it's super cool.
Oh, very nice.
But I realized maybe the local bookstore would already have it, so I canceled my pre-order, or so I thought. Ran to the local bookstore. It was there on Monday, so I got it Monday. Then Tuesday, I have a package waiting for me from Amazon. It's like, okay, now I have 3 copies of this book.
Nice.
So I'm giving it to one of my cloudy friends so they can read it
Nice.
because
Hmm.
they couldn't afford it. So I was like, oh hey, share the love.
Yeah, exactly. Same
So
thing happened to me too. It was actually on your advice that I pre-ordered twice, and then when the order confirmed that it was coming in, I tried to cancel one of the orders, but Amazon wouldn't let me, so I got 2 copies of it. Paid for the book twice. That's okay. I have
hey,
my siblings wanted a copy of the book, so I'm just like, okay, here, have mine.
see, accidental blessings. You accidentally were crazy enough to listen to me, and it worked out anyway. So that's good.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we went over the first 25 pages the last week, but Lex
Mhm.
wasn't here, and I like him. If there's anything, we can just skim, and anything you want to stop and talk about, we'll just do that.
Sure.
And then
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
going
That's
to make it to the next 25 pages, which is right around time she like that. A lot of it is her time meeting Zangan and how she comes to be one of his disciples. So, well, I don't know if it's disciple the word I'm supposed to.
I mean, you could use that. I mean, like it's.
That
I
sounds a little
mean,
more religious. I don't know. I didn't want to get the wrong impression. Students.
it's like I mean like Zangan is like is basically her sensei, and
Mm-hmm.
sensei is, as far as I understand it, and from taking kung fu when I was a kid, 1 year of kung fu, so it's a little embarrassing. But I think as far as I have ascertained is that you have a high regard for your sensei, because they're teaching you not just the physical skills, but they're teaching you about life skills and physicality and like how to handle your emotions and things like that. So
Yes.
they become kind of a spiritual leader, a spiritual guide in that sort of
Mentor.
sense.
Um,
And so that's how I see Zangan.
and a lot of times a father figure or mother, whatever it may be. Generally, it's particularly in media, it's often a man. So that's why I just speak in male terms. But yeah, like a mentor, almost a fatherly figure in a lot of ways.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so yeah, that's an excellent point, and that is one thing that I love that they touch on because, as we'll see later, Zangan does go through. He makes sure he's not just teaching her physical ability, but how to handle her emotions. You find out how she gets the bracelet that she wears and things like that. It's very very interesting. Man, it sounds like going through 50 pages shouldn't be that much, but Nojima packs so much into Tifa's part of the story. Um,
Mhm.
it was just, I mean, it really was just amazing because you start out with her relationship with Cloud, and it's sprinkled throughout. but then you have this heaviness with Zangan, and then uh, the stuff around sorry, when she ends up how she ends up in Midgard, and then Midgard itself is this whole big thing. So
Mhm. Yeah,
wow,
definitely.
just a
And
lot
there's
to
a,
get to.
yeah, exactly. And there's and just in my review as well that there's a it also goes into how she gets her how she gets her cat from a character named Xander.
Oh yes,
Yes, it was what was it, Maru or something like that in the
Maru,
Japanese text.
Maru.
Yeah, and so they called her Fluffy. So they called the cat Fluffy in this. So that was so that's an interesting choice. I would have thought they would have left it at Maru, honestly.
Oh my
But
god. Well, and
but
Maru had a significance in the Japanese anyway. But well, you know what? We can just get to it, and as we get to Maru, I can tell you about that. But yeah,
right.
Tifa's portion is 195 pages. I mean, it is it is more than half the book. Very
Mhm.
very. I mean, oh yeah, for Tifa fans, it was just a blessing in so many ways. It
Right.
it
Yes.
it verified so many things we thought about her relationship with Cloud. It debunked a lot of misconceptions about her. It added so much lore to her character. The Zangan stuff, especially, I'm just really excited about. I'm telling you, we are going to see Zangan again. We are absolutely going to
Mhm.
see him again. Nojima took too much time explaining her origins with him for this to be the end of what we see. And in fact, he was at least at the very least supposed to be seen in part one, but they ended up having to cut it out for time. So,
Oh
yeah,
wow. Yes.
yeah. So I'm very excited. I think it would have just been a flashback or something like that. But the point is, he was introduced as a character. I'm telling you, we're gonna see him again. So, all right,
Mhm.
enough with the opening. Okay, this book is just gorgeous, by the way.
It is.
If you can get your hands on physical copy, I believe I paid 30 for mine. Well, like 24.99, something like that. Comes about to
Oh
around
yeah.
30 bucks. If you can get your hands on a
Hmm.
physical copy, I highly recommend it.
Hmm.
But also, if you just want the Kindle version is only 15 bucks, and you see how you have the links, and then you're able to annotate as you'll see different highlights on my pages as we go. It's really nice. So let's why don't you, I know you like to read, and I'm terrible at it. Why don't you just give us this opener here for right from the beginning until, yeah, right from the beginning until maybe they were joking like old friends. So it's those first two paragraphs.
First two paragraphs. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'll read. I'll read, and you tell me when to stop.
Okay.
All right. Alrighty then. So starting off with Final Fantasy VII Remake: Traces of Two Pasts. Episode 1: Traces of Tifa. The breeze over the glassy plain swept through Tifa Lockhart's hair, reminding her of home. When she'd been living in their village, her hair had remained forever tousled by the winds howling down from Mount Nebel. Walking just ahead was Aerith Gainsborough, who gestured widely at the sprawling grasslands and asked, "Hey, are you used to this kind of stuff?" Tifa had only met the other woman a few days earlier, but she found her easy to talk to. In fact, within hours of first meeting, they'd already been chatting and joking like old friends. Another gust swept up the plains, sending waves rolling through the grass. Tifa turned to face the way they'd come, catching the wind at her back as she did so. The amount of distance the party had covered surprised her. When Tifa returned to walking, Aerith had moved close to her side. "You mean, have I ever seen endless fields like this before?" replied Tifa. "No, I mean the walking. Hours and hours of it. First the Badlands, and now grass. I don't mind it. I guess it's good cardio." Aerith laughed. "Everything comes to exercise for you, doesn't it? If I had a choice, though," continued Tifa, "I'd take a hiking trail in the mountains over this. At least that way the scenery changes as you go along. Right? Ever since we left the city, it's like we've been walking in circles. It never ends. I used to dream of having a picnic in a wide open field, but if this is all the grasslands have to offer, I think I'll pass. I'd say this is closer to hiking than a picnic." Picnics are about sitting down to eat and having fun. Does that mean you've been on one before? A real picnic? Sure, I have. Tifa thought back on the days she'd spent as a child in the village. I mean, sort of, she clarified. They were like picnics. We just used a different name. Yeah? What did you call them? Tifa's cheeks flushed. Her gaze fell as she answered. Tea parties.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Sorry, that was not two paragraphs, but I just love that opening. It's just a, I like the descriptors there, and then I love that each of their sides start off with them giving the other woman some praise, and showing how close they've gotten so quickly, because neither of these girls have really had had a girlfriend at all, let alone somebody they felt close to. I mean, Tifa had Jesse, but not really. I mean, it was more a business relationship, even though they were friendly.
Yeah.
Aerith is the first person who really feels like a real girlfriend to Tifa, and vice versa. And so that's an excellent part of the book. And then I just love the tea parties. It's so cute. And let me read comments real quick, Lex, and then I'll get your opinion on the opening as well.
Sure.
Lady Supernova said, "Yeah, I just joined the gym, but I usually play Beat Saber. I'm not sure I know what that is." I'm sorry.
Ooh, okay. It's a virtual reality game that's like on like Oculus and PlayStation VR, where you use the two virtual reality controllers, basically, yeah, sticks basically, and they act as lightsabers. And then like when the music comes by, it comes out as boxes that you have to hit with the lightsaber, and yeah, it feels so freaking fun. Honestly,
Wow.
like it's like it's like Star Wars, but bring it to our time.
Okay, yeah. If I'd ever seen Star Wars, that would be a lot cooler. But no, okay, no, lightsabers are always cool. I don't care if you've seen it now. That's one of my goals this year, to actually see Star Wars, so I can have to stop telling people I have only seen one of those movies. and then grabs 1AF. I hope I got that right. He said, "Love you guys. I love you too." All right, so so Lex, what these first pages, what were your thoughts as far as Tifa's opening?
I mean, just this is to reiterate what you were saying. There was it establishes the most important thing it establishes is not just it's not just the scenery, it's not just the setting that they're in right now, but it's small talk. It's them getting to know each other on a more relaxed and personal level in that sort of way, because they had just been through about 48 some odd hours of just intense action, intense emotion, and this is a time of kind of like, this is their calm right now, so to speak. They're
No pun intended.
Yes, exactly. And it's nice to see that it's not just the rough and tumble stuff that they get into, but this is like, it's now we get to see who these people are, as it is. And the fact that, like, right from the get-go, Nojima says that these two women are getting along, and that they are and they feel a closeness to each other that they didn't have with other people. That also debunks a lot of the other myths out there that they hated each other, whatever like that, or they were backstabbers or something. They're not. They're two good women who want to get to know each other, and we're making good friends with each other at this point, and will continue to grow over the next month and a half of the time that they have left together.
Yeah, yes.
Unbeknownst to them both, obviously, but
Yeah. It's been about 9 days ish. So if things happen the way they do, then they could, a month at best possible, something like that. And I think that's another reason why it's great that they have taken away the negative aspects of their relationship from previous. This game is a product of the 90s. At the end of the day, there's gonna be some problematic parts, but Ojima and SC have really done a great job so far cleaning up a lot of the messiness, like the unnecessary messiness that was
Mhm.
in the OG. So, um, yeah, so I love that Arity for life. I'm very much into the Arity here,
Mhm. Mhm.
and also, yeah, you do make a good point too that we aren't seeing them like in the throes of battle or anything like that. It's just two girls walking, like getting to know one another. That's great, and talking about things that otherwise probably wouldn't have had a chance to come up. So that's why um, I think he's chosen these pockets inside of what will be Rebirth, where it would be kind of calms between the storms to
Mhm.
have this conversation. Obviously, it wouldn't make any sense. They're in the middle of a Sephiroth battle. Hey, girl, so what did you do when you were 5? Like, that wouldn't make any sense. um, and Supernova said, do you think there would be any references to this book in part 2? Well, Toriyama said this book is the backbone of Remake. So I
Mhm.
cannot imagine there won't be. First off, this book is happening while what like during what we will be playing at least
Right.
all the way up until on the boat to Junon. So I don't know that we'll see them having these conversations, but I think we may get glimpses. For instance, even in the Junon boat, as we're Cloud, we may be able to
Mhm.
walk into the room where they're talking, and then that whole little thing where they're whispering to each other and they start laughing at Cloud. We may see something like that, little Easter eggs, where you're like, oh, I know where that came from, and then a
Yep.
lot, and then I'm sure characters that show up in here are eventually going to show up. For instance, Zangan, as I said. But we also may see some other characters. We may run into Rakesh at some point, stuff like that. So that's certainly possible. Um,
There's also I remember that scene in Cosmo Canyon when you don't have anybody in your party, or you already have two people in your party who are not Aerith or Tifa, and they're sitting at a table chatting with each other,
mm-hmm.
and that's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It just can't be. It's not just like, oh, all of a sudden they're sitting together and like they're all of a sudden chatting. No, it starts from here. It starts from them walking and talking in the grasslands, and developing that to the point where they get to a nice little bar and and they're having a drink together
Mm-hmm.
and shooting the shit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. Because the end of the novel, Aerith in the Japanese, they frankly dropped the ball a little bit in the English when it came to the end. What Eric says is, "I'm going to tell you about my first love," and so we're definitely going to see that conversation between Eric and Tifa at some point. In fact, there was a deleted scene out of OG where they were going to have a conversation about Zack. Uh,
Oh, hmm.
mm-hmm. And they were like, don't tell Cloud, blah blah blah. But yeah, I didn't realize both of us knew Zach, et cetera, et cetera. And that conversation ensues. We are definitely going to see that happen. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So what happens next? Let's see. Again, just stop mid parts you want to talk about. So basically, she goes into a lot of lore we didn't really know about Nibelheim, how it was founded. They even give specific years in here. They talk a
Mhm.
little bit about the Republic of Junon, which I'm hoping we'll hear more about later as well in
Mhm.
Rebirth. And let's see, et cetera, et cetera. So then she goes here. You want to go to page 10 and read that paragraph, or you can just look at my screen if it's not too small. It starts off with, there were only 4 other kids. It's page 10, I think. There were only 4 other kids.
There were only four other kids. Let's look.
Yeah,
Let's
page
see
10.
what we.
Sorry, because the Kindle is a little off, so I'm giving you what I think the page is. I may have to look at my own
Let me
copy.
just.
Oh,
Okay, one of those. Let's see. There were only four other kids around my age in the village, and they were all boys. Let's see. They were. Let's
oh,
see.
here it
Blah
is.
blah
Page
blah.
6. Page 6. Yeah, see, this
Oh,
thing is
page
off.
6. Oh, so the top. Okay, so top of page 6. Okay, cool.
I think I know what it is because it's probably counting all the pages, even though this does not count. Does that make sense? Like the opening pages shouldn't have a number.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what it's. So it's a couple pages off. Yeah, so page 6.
Okay, cool. So top of page 6.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. There were only four other kids around my age in the village, and they were all boys, explained Tifa. We had our own little clique, I guess you'd say. We were so inseparable. the villagers started referring to us as the Four Fiends. Those were the friends I'd eventually start having tea parties with. Wait, but if it was you plus four other kids, shouldn't you have been the Fabulous Five or something? One of those four boys was Cloud. The rest of us used to invite him along for our adventures, but he always refused. That is, if you could get a response out of him in the first place. Most of the time, he straight up ignored us. The way he acted got him into a lot of fights until eventually the other boys were always referring to him as the weirdo or that menace to society. Tifa glanced ahead at Cloud Strife, who had led the way on their journey across the grasslands. Cloud would have undoubtedly overheard her story, but he gave no sign of acknowledgement.
So this part, yeah, so she's basically talking about how she used to have this clique with Emilio, Lester, and Tyler. And
Hmm.
I always find this passage interesting because um, she's always wanted to ask Cloud about those times. And we'll get into it a little later on, but there are things that just were inexplicable to her. And so I think, I mean, she didn't say anything wrong. Like, she was just saying how the boys, basically how Cloud acted. He ignored them. They hated him for
Hmm.
it. Because she says he ignored us, but I don't think he was necessarily. I think it was more she was with them and he was ignoring them.
Hmm.
If
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes sense.
I also think as well is because I mean the way that we know who Cloud is and the way his character and how much he felt for Tifa,
Hmm.
um, it would he was so over. I think being around Tifa just so overwhelmed him.
Hmm.
Uh, as we're gonna find out later on in the book, because of course I read Pico's translations. Um, that when he asked her to the water tower, he just basically blurted it out. It's like,
Blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Like,
water tower, water tower tonight. Okay, bye. Basically, right? So it's like there was so much that he was feeling that, along with feeling a little bit intimidated by the other three boys that were always around Tifa.
hmm.
So and that's something that I, as a shy person, do very much resonate with Cloud's character. I know
Hmm.
that I know that if I'm that overwhelmed by somebody, whether it be a girl I'm checking out, or if it is maybe or maybe somebody in my industry that I really admire. Let's say nobody will know these names: Tim McAuliffe, Sid Seixeiro. If I were to be in front of them, I'd
Hmm.
be just like I wouldn't know what the heck to say. It was even though they're like the most chill people in the world, you know.
Hmm.
And Tifa is probably going to be it would probably have been chill with Cloud, as we can see later on in the game, that she's chill that she is totally chill with Cloud.
Yeah,
Um,
you can
I,
see they have a rapport from the get go in uh, I mean, an OG, definitely, but also a remake, especially. It's even clearer. I mean, who feels like their childhood bully, as some people want to claim Tifa is
oh
there, and it's
God.
like, oh, let me give her this romantic flower and let me compliment her constantly. It's like, I'm all smiles every time I'm around her. It's like, nah, he doesn't seem that into. But I think what it is, I think to your point is the difference between Real Cloud and Soldier Cloud at this point
Mm,
is confidence. He
yeah.
feels like he's fulfilled. He's going through the soldier delusion where he feels like he's fulfilled his thing to be her hero, or at least become a hero as he promised he would be, and then is also in the process of helping her out. That yeah, he has that confidence that Real Cloud just lacked in a lot of ways. So he isn't afraid to be a little bold with Tifa. And I mean, because honestly, like what Cloud did in Chapter 3, you could walk up to a chick and she's like, "Oh, that's a nice flower," blah blah, and you just hand it off to her like that. The little Casanova move he made on her. That's pretty
Yep.
bold. I mean, that's why she was
Hmm.
like speechless when he did it. So, whereas here, to get back to this, yeah, you see that Cloud, um, for one reason or another, was a lot of times ignoring them. He would And I don't know if it's in the English, but I know in the Japanese translation it says something like a lot of times he would walk ahead of them but not acknowledge them, something like that. I think that might be a little later. I've read this many times and some of it gets jumbled up in my mind because they go back to some of this stuff later on. Anyway, and one thing I would say, another thing that Supernova said. Oh, thank you, Supernova. She said she liked my shirt.
Nice.
And also, Supernova just said kids being kids. Yeah, there's also a lot of kids being kids. There's people who I refused to talk to when I was a kid or whatever. I was too shy to talk to them, whatever. And now I see them, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know?
Right.
Yeah. And it's when you're 9 and when you're 21, you're gonna act differently. That's called, I don't know, human behavior, progress. Anybody who's acting,
Socialization.
yeah, I mean, anybody who's acting the same at 9 and 21, there's a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, and what Supernova said about what we will see in the game, what we've gotten is Tifa's side, and this is the reason I want to stop at this part, because she glances at Cloud, who she knows heard what she was talking about, but he doesn't acknowledge it. We will get his side in the live stream scene. We might get some of it in Nibelheim, but we're most certainly going to get it in the live stream scene. Because at this point, even though they are fine, their relationship is fine in remake, there's still a lot of questions in the background, like what was going on back then, and we'll see some more of that a little later in here. But I just love that. Yeah, basically the point of the book to me, at least on specifically for Tifa's side, is to give her whole side of what she knew, and then, like I said, the live stream scene will be the answer to Traces of Tifa. From his point of view, and it will be way more expanded. All right, so yeah, she basically talks about who her friends were. They were all the same age as her. Cloud was a year older. I'm assuming that the other boys were her actual age, 8. And they start going into how when the boys were getting older, they started to look at her more as a potential mate rather than a friend. And she would notice it. And she would notice it, but she would basically either change the subject or just pretend not to hear, dismiss it. And this is another thing that Nojima debunked, Lex, because there was stuff like, oh well, she was dating all the boys in the town or whatever, or she was interested in all of them. Well, there's only 4 boys her age. There's other people but she only hung out with these 3, and then Cloud when she was younger and stuff like that. And I also had mentioned this before, that I think it was more of a particularly when they were younger, there were friends that I would hang out with them, and then they had their own friend group that they would hang out. I didn't want to hang out with their friend group. I hung out with them. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I think this is also a similar matter going on here. But anyway, yeah, so they started to look at her as a potential mate rather than, their friend, and it made her uncomfortable. And she didn't want to lose their friendship, and all women have gone through this. So she just brushed it aside. But when it came to Cloud, it was different, and they showed that. And just stop and talk whenever you want to. So yeah, this is what's highlighted on this page. Moving forward, in fact, all the boys later on go on to make her a promise. Yeah, see, here it is. In their eyes, Tifa was a badge of honor, a trophy to be won, proof of success and escape from a life of mediocrity. And she knew that's how the 3 boys felt about her. And she didn't like that.
And that's an interesting thing, though, that that they didn't just see her as they didn't see her just as the girl that they grew up with, the girl that's been their friend, the girl that they got along with. They saw her as like a status symbol almost, and that's and that is and that's something that's actually congruent with that letter that that other boy from
Emilio, I believe it was.
Yes, and she was looking at that letter, it's like, what the f is this? Yeah. It's like, what the hell's wrong with this dude, right? and it shows the difference between just the way they developed and the way they all kind of made a pact. Oh yeah, yeah, every like we'll all be friends even though every man for themselves or something like that.
Mm,
Basically, and that's the thing is that like it was when it came to Cloud just loved her for who she was,
mm-hmm.
for who she was, not as a status symbol, not as a way to escape mediocrity. It's he loves Tifa for Tifa.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and that's why and I think, and again, that's why it's going to be so critical to see Cloud's side when we get to the live stream scene. I think they were icing him out, and that's normal boy, just like yeah, just a normal boy, Supernova. Yes,
Hmm.
and that's normal kid baby too. Because Thea, as we'll see a little later, yeah, Thea and Brian could tell that Tifa had feelings for Cloud before even she knew it. So I'm sure those boys picked up on it too, and were like,
Hmm.
she likes them better than us, and that is something I'll bring up with the Mount Nebel incident as well. And for the people who were here last week, I might be repeating myself on some of this stuff, but no, it is what it is. Okay. Yeah. So they saw it as a trophy, whereas Cloud wanted to. The reason he wanted to um, become a hero is because he wanted to be. He wanted to prove himself someone who would be worthy of being with Tifa. You
Hmm.
know, who would be who he wants to prove and by worthy of being with her, meaning would he could prove that he'd be able to protect her. It all goes back to the Mount Nebel incident. He'd be able. Ooh, what did I do? Okay, he wanted to show that he would be the type of man that would be able to protect his woman, basically, and
Hmm.
and do the things that a man is, in his mind, a man is supposed to be able to do. Um, so yeah, it wasn't about like, oh, look at my trophy wife over here. Like,
Right, right.
um, and it was because he was in love with her.
Mhm.
So yeah, he wanted to rise to the occasion of being somebody worthy of her, which is a different thing than the other boys. So you mentioned the cat. Let's see. So Xander, this is where Xander gives her Fluffy. Look,
Right.
Fluffy is a horrible retcon of this cat's name.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I only say it to say it ironically because it's funny, but the
Hmm.
cat's name is Maru. God.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And what's cute is so she gets Maru. Tifa has an injury, and as she's starting to heal, she wants to go outside. Um, Fluffy ends up escaping, and then and then after Fluffy disappears, the whole village is looking for Fluffy. God,
Right.
I sound like an idiot saying Fluffy. Uh, what I was
Oh,
gonna
just retcon everything yourself and just call her Maru.
I know. Well, the reason the cat's name matters is because Maru is another was saying mal, like bad. And that was I believe that was the reason Tifa was displeased by the name, but the villager didn't
Mm.
want her to change the name. Plus, everybody when they were looking for the cat, they were all calling it Maru, so it was just like, okay, let's just keep the cat's name. Yeah, that's so it had a meaning to it. I guess they just thought it would be a meaning that would be lost in translation, so they just decided to go with damn Fluffy. God.
And I think that's also now that you think about it. Now that I think about it, it's like when you say Fluffy and you have a disdain for that. Yeah, it's like yeah, there's so many better names for Fluffy, just like there's so many better names than Maru for this cat. So it's like, oh, I wish you could change it. And so there it is. Maybe that's the reason
Yeah,
why
maybe.
they would
Well,
stick with
I'll give
Fluffy.
them that. It's definitely better names out there than Fluffy. Hey, somebody's
Maybe.
nightmare. Say, hey, somebody's nightmare. So,
Hey, Nightmare.
we have been reading this book. She especially been reading this book feverishly. We are so obsessed with it. We've read
Oh,
it
I
every
want to
time it
read it
came out
just as
of.
much.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want to. I want to read it just as feverishly as you two, but
Oh yeah.
I've been so busy here. But at least this gives me a chance to catch up with y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, yeah, every time it came in a new language, we were gushing over it all over again. And now it's out in English and we're just like, I've actually been trying not to read too far because I want it to be fresh. It's been a little bit since I've read it, but I keep reading the same pages. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the next book club. Oh. But yeah, somebody's number says status is important to consider in the context. Tifa's father also encouraged these boys to pursue her. That is true. Cloud wanted to stand out from them. And remember, and I'm not, I want to be very clear. This is not how I'm saying Tifa views Cloud, and we'll see this near the end of the 50 pages when we get to it. She has never thought of Cloud as less than her or anything like that. But it is clear that the village, like, there is this princess pauper dynamic going on, and not because Tifa's rich, which is something some people claim sometimes, which I find very strange. She's not rich. But it's the status, and that's what. And to get to what Nightmare is saying, Tifa is, I believe, a councilman. It's not like there's a status to her family in Nibelheim, whereas, ever since Claudia came to town, being an unwed mother and stuff like that, there's always been kind of a cast down because it's a traditional village. People have already always looked kind of down on their family. Then when the Mount Nebel incident happened and the prized daughter of the village almost got killed, and then Cloud, who is the, for lack of a better term, and that's not how I feel about him, I'm just saying, I'm sure this is how he is viewed, the bastard child of the village, you know what I mean, with the unwed mother. Seriously, I mean, so then it's like he's the one that almost got her killed supposedly, and so that just made things worse. So that's where a lot of this tension is coming from, but it's not coming from Tifa. She has always had an eye for Cloud. Cloud's always had an eye for her, but I'm sure part of his distance, especially after Mount Nebel incident, was because of that. So yeah, to finish what Nightmare was saying, status was important to considering context. Tifa's father also encouraged these boys to pursue her. Cloud wanted to stand out from them. I'm not like them, and he goes into that in the live stream scene as well. He wanted to demonstrate he was better than the average guys. Yes, though ironically, it's him having, I guess, what Tifa thought were ordinary dreams, is what made her, realize she was in love with him. More than once throughout the compilation, it's mentioned that Cloud wants to prove he's special and better than the others. When the irony is Tifa falls in love with him for being a regular boy. Absolutely, it's so sweet. Fluffy cracks me up every time. Of course, all he needed to do was be himself. Cloud! All she wanted was you. It just drives me crazy every time I play Crisis Core Review. I'm like, just take off the helmet. And then last thing, her father was on the town council, yeah. And some other sources, he was referenced as the town chief, but traces to past suggested that. Yeah, exactly. They retconned that.
Yeah, I remember. I remember reading it's an unfinished fanfic screenplay, I guess, or thing that I cast Brian Lockhart as the mayor of the town, which is the reason why, why the whole town was able to just turn on Cloud and just shut him, because if you wanted to stay in good graces with the town council or with the mayor, you got to follow what the mayor says. Yes, it's not fascism, but it's still pretty.
It's traditional does not. There are some things about tradition that are great. There's some things about tradition that are bullshit. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of things were tradition that I would not be down for. Okay.
Yep.
The part where it says the women look for husbands and the men look for jobs is telling of status. It's telling of the way status works in Nibelheim. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And so, a single mother,
very quote unquote traditional.
And I like seeing these dynamics here, because even though there's, like, what I love about Cloudy is the realism of the relationship and how it's not all, fun and games and fairy tales and blah, blah, blah. There is absolutely some fairy tale nature to it. Like I said, the princess and the pauper type deal. You have the Aladdin versus Jasmine type deal going on. Again, not rich, but when we're talking about status and where Tifa stands versus Cloud in this village. And so there are some, there's a ton of tropes with Cloudy, this, boy next door, girl next door, and all that. Yeah, but that is one of them.
Riff raff, street rat, take that, just a little.
I love it. Okay, so And it's so cute because Cloud, when Fluffy goes missing, God, I'm gonna call this cat Maru because I can't even get through a sentence saying it. When Maru goes missing, everybody's looking for it, but the next day Claudia comes back with the cat early in the morning, and she's like, and Tifa's so happy, and she's like, "Thank you so much, Claudia." And this is when she's 12, so they have a friendly relationship. You would think because of the Mount Nebel incident, there would be some rift, but Claudia and Tifa seem perfectly fine. So it's weird that, again, certain people have headcanons that Claudia hates Tifa or something. No, she doesn't.
Oh no, not at all, not at all.
And
as we'll clearly see later on when Cloud leaves town. So.
Exactly. And so she says, "Welcome home, Fluffy." Oh, because Claudia's like, "Well, you need to thank Cloud because he's the one that found the cat." Now, you can just imagine Cloud running around, the 13-year-old Cloud running around this whole village looking for this cat. And he probably got scratched up and everything trying to grab this cat. And then Claudia has to bring it. His mommy has to bring it to Tifa because he's too shy to do it. It's just so cute. And Nojima's amazing because there's only one reason to write these type of details in here. Like, why write a whole thing about a cat going missing and Cloud being the only one to find it? And then Tifa's like, "I didn't even know he knew I had a cat. I just got it." It's clear. It's clear.
I mean, like, and that's the thing. Like every word of this book, and any word that goes into and gets published, there is like barring any major errors or something like that, is intended. There's an intention behind each of the certain beats that happen in the course of a story, and you see that in wrestling as well too. Is that like there is an intention that goes into that goes into the biggest storylines. We have people that are not just fighting over the championship, but it's like, there's this loyalty and trust in something like that in some storylines, and this the same thing too. It's just like everything is intentional, and it explains, all the intention is explained in this book. So it can't be ignored as much as people want to ignore, as much as there's a fringe, a lunatic fringe who wants to ignore it. They can't. They're unable to ignore it, and you can see how much they can't ignore it because, you see what's going on. You see what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if these were all innocuous little tidbits that were being thrown in here, let's say Tifa and Claudia detractors would have not been going ballistic about this book ever since it was released. Okay, if this was all truly in the past and none of it mattered and none of it was heavy foreshadowing to Cloud and Tifa being together, they wouldn't care about it.
Yep.
You don't see us going ballistic over little details here and there, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they mentioned Red 13 right here. What does that mean?" But if let's try to disprove whatever the hell they said about Red 13 in this passage. Like, it's like, what? Okay, I don't care.
Let's read the book.
Like, really? See, that's always the first thing. You want to just read the book before you critique it. That's always a good thing to do.
Exactly.
So, in the comments, very traditional and conservative is further demonstrated in the gossip of the older folk. Absolutely. And so, let's get a little further down because we haven't even gotten to the second 25 pages. So, let's see. So
the boys keep on talking about Midgar and wanted to make their fortunes over there.
Yes.
And Emilio in his letter. Let's see.
That's later. That's later on the letter.
That's way later. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about So the boys have all said they're going to Midgar. Tifa's sad, of course, because everybody's leaving. She doesn't know the Cloud's leaving yet, and then they get to. Can you go to page? It's probably 15. Where Tifa runs into Cloud. And they actually have a conversation. Let's see.
Is it on that particular day there'd been no sign of Fluffy?
Nope.
The cat runs away again?
Nope. Now again, my Kindle is saying a different. Oh, okay. It's right. Sorry, the Kindle is a different page than the actual page. I wish it actually put the freaking page number up here. Lean back. I wonder if I feel like coming. Poor Tifa. Yeah, she's real sad. Everybody's leaving. Oh, here we go. Okay. He's hilarious. Okay. Go to page 13 and you'll see in the second half, after the little squiggly thing,
Okay.
there's a
Yep.
it says just as she placed her hand on the shop's door.
Let's see. Just as she wait, hold on a second. Page 13.
Bottom
She placed
half,
her.
just as she placed her hand on the shop's
Oh,
door.
there we go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Cool. Here we go. Just as he, just as she placed a hand on the shop's door handle, she felt eyes at her back. Tifa turned to find Cloud's strife. Any encounter with Cloud would have been unusual enough. But what really astonished Tifa this time was the fact that the boy was staring straight into her eyes. Typically, when she ran into Cloud, he'd look away and find some excuse to dash off. There was something different about him today. His lips parted as if to speak. She saw them move, but couldn't make out the words. Tifa tilted her head in confusion, and Cloud bolted forward. Tifa flinched, certain he was about to ram into her. But, a single step shy of a collision, Cloud stopped. He leaned in, mouth inches from her ear. When he spoke, the words were so rushed, they nearly blended together. After dark, up on the water tower. All Tifa could think to reply was, okay. Cloud nodded and sprinted off into the falling dusk, as if fleeing from danger. Tifa, flustered both by the meeting and by what seemed to be an unnecessarily hasty departure on Cloud's part, scurried back home. She'd forgotten all about the shopping excursion.
Okay, great. And so what I love about this, right before this, she's actually planning on baking a cake, and she had been jotting down stuff that she needed, and she was actually headed to Emilio's house because he was the village general store's son, owner's son.
Right.
And so she's literally about to go see Emilio. And she feels Cloud's eyes on her. Okay, see, like, all of this, like, just the language, and I realize that the English is a little bit different, Japanese a little bit different than we get that. But they all have, like, familiar, like, anybody who's read romance or seen romance, we all have known this moment where the love interest can feel the other person's eyes on them or something like that, and you turn around, or they have some sort of moment, this moment, this unspoken moment, this sixth sense about the other person. Yeah, this is all just as Nightmare said, best coming of age romance passage I've ever read. It is freaking amazing. Cloud leaning into her ear, whispering. I'm like, Cloud got some moves on him for a 14-year-old. What is he doing? I was like, man. And then like, you think of Cloud strife, especially if you only know at this point remake Cloud. Well, actually, he's pretty romantic with Tifa in that too. But if you just think of Cloud as like this broody, I don't care, whatever, kind of aloof almost sometimes, because he doesn't always pick up on social cues or just doesn't care about them, you know what I'm saying? But for Cloud Strife to be like, you know what, I want to tell Tifa about my dream to be a soldier. Let me ask her up to the water tower at midnight. And then this is like you can imagine this happening as well, but it's this goofy, because he almost runs into her. Almost a bit of a satirical moment. But Cloud is accidentally, act like super accidentally romantic sometimes with Tifa too. Like, he just can't help himself. He's like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah, I know the feeling.
You know what I mean? Like, it's dorky, but it's still super romantic at the same time. And
oh yeah.
And like Tifa, and then like the descriptors, his lips parted as if to speak. It's like, what?
As if to speak, exactly.
He leaned in, mouth inches from her ear. It's like, what is going on?
I love this. The words were so rushed that they nearly blended together. After dark, up on the water tower.
Let me tell you something. There is no version of asking a girl out to a water tower in the middle of the night under the Nibelheim sky, which is, I mean, in video game or in life, one of the most gorgeous skies I've ever seen in my life. Okay. There's no non-romantic version of this. Okay. I mean, he didn't flat out say this is a date, but he might as well have. Anybody would have taken, which is why Tifa's response to it after this is like, she is like, wow.
Yeah.
She's like, she runs to her house. Oh, sorry, you jump on in whenever you want to, but she ends up running to her
Yeah.
house and talking to her cat, trying to figure out what her feelings are about Cloud, and she's all super, just antsy and nervous and excited.
I mean, here's the thing. As you were saying that, this reminds me of a sky of I was in the summertime. I was about 3 hours north of Toronto at a camp, and I was doing a music gig at a camp there, and it's obviously there's way far away from big city Toronto, and it's there's this beautiful lake, this dock over there. You could see it's so far away from the city and the light pollution that you can actually see the Milky Way in a clear night.
Wow.
If I were to ask a girl out to the dock over there, you know that you know I would have intention over there. She would know that I would have intention of getting to know her in a more intimate way, and it's like, yeah, it's that's just that's just that is going to be a move. That is definitely going to be a move, even though you don't maybe realize it in the moment, when you say it, and me being a dork myself, I probably wouldn't realize it in the moment if I but thinking about this and connecting those two, yeah, that would definitely be a move.
Yeah, for sure, and it would work. Unless the girl really
I
just
don't, I,
hated you, it would work.
I, I don't know. I don't know. My luck is my luck is running a little, but I don't have. But then again, I don't. Then again, I haven't met my Tifa, so
Hey, give it time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and what I love about the contrast, because again, these other boys, they've been trying to court her. Her dad is even saying like, "Hey, come get her." You know what I'm saying? Which look, to be fair, like, I know she's 12, but you have to realize Claudia had Cloud at 17. Like, again, we're talking about a traditional village. Cloud went off to the army at 14. I mean, 12 is absolutely, I mean, I'm not saying she was gonna get married at 12, but they would have been in the mindset of, in a couple years, 17, 18, 19. I'm sure these kids in Nibelheim are expected to be married off. I mean, just, this is like old timey stuff. This ain't 2023 stuff, So
I'm sure.
not sure
I'm
I would
sure
have let
Tia-
my daughter get married at 18, but I'm just, and that would have been my,
well,
but I don't live there, so.
true. I would think that Taya was also pretty young herself,
Oh,
like
yeah.
17, 18 when Tifa was born, because as far as what I've ascertained from, I guess, the compilation and things that we've read already, is that Taya, of course, she died young when Tifa was young, but she had died really young, and and that's and I'm pretty sure there in my head canon, the way it works is that, like, Brian didn't remarry. Brian didn't remarry, not because there wasn't any other women in town, but I'm pretty sure that Tia was just what was that beautiful of a soul, and that beautiful woman, she birthed Tifa.
His
Yeah.
one true love, and yeah, because it had been, I mean, it had been almost as long as Barrett has been single. Let's see, Tifa was 8 when she died. Tifa was
Yeah.
15 when he died, so yeah, it's been quite a while. And probably he just focused on his family and what was going on. He might have been dating and stuff, but who knows? And nothing ever came of it, obviously. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
just want to be very clear. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying what I observe out of Nibelheim.
Of
It
course,
probably
of course.
was very common for 16, 17, 18-year-old to be looking to marriage and looking to start having kids and stuff like that, marrying off the daughter type thing. So, and I
Yeah,
think that's what
there's
was
also
expected
not.
of Tifa, is to be married off. I mean, again, who was telling a bunch of 12-year-olds like, hey, y'all are going to be suited for my daughter one day?
There wasn't very much to do in the town either. Like, it was. I mean, if with
Apparently
Emilio,
not.
Lester, and Tyler talking about all the cool stuff that they could be doing in Nibelheim, sorry, in
Midgar.
Midgar, in Midgar, that also kind of like shows me that there wasn't really that much going on. Like it's a small town. There's not a lot of technology. Like there was obviously internet because, or at least there was some form of the internet because of emails. Tifa sent emails to Zack.
Oh
So there's
yeah.
got to be some sort of infrastructure there, but not at the same kind of level that you would see in Midgar with the nightlife and Wall Market and
Exactly.
everything else that's going on in there.
We're talking about a country town way off with nothing around it, as Cloud said. It's a totally different type of situation. And Tifa has a phone that traces two paths.
Yeah.
Nightmare just reminded me.
Uh, and also it also reminds me as well too because I had a friend who lived the year in Cayman Islands and everything. It's just like and she told me like, oh my God, growing up having to go to Cayman Islands, yeah, it's beautiful there, the weather's amazing, but it's so boring. There's nothing to do except except get into shenanigans. I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna say what shenanigans, but shenanigans nonetheless.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I am not surprised that they were already looking, for potential suitors, and again, just meaning down the line at some point. And
Oh yeah.
I think that's why they were going ahead, and all the boys were leaving town at 13 and 14 to go find whatever they're going to do with their lives, find work, get some money together, blah blah, so they could come back at 17, 18, whatever, and start courting one of the girls out of Neba. Or, well, specifically, they all wanted Tifa. So, little did they know, the only one she was ever interested in was Cloud. So, and I love these little passages here throughout because we're going to have to keep skipping through. We are not even... that little Strife boy has the face of an angel. This is Thea talking to her. Shortly afterward, Thea had added, everyone loves to fawn over Sephiroth, the hero these days, but personally, I think Little Cloud is going to grow up to be much more attractive. So Thea already knows what's up. She's not talking to Tifa about this boy for no reason. Okay, she knows Tifa got a crush on him, and
Shot her daughter a knowing glance.
yes. And
And Brian spent the rest of the night in a sour mood.
yes. Oh, Brian was not happy. And another thing is, I like that they're already setting up a rivalry, and Nightmare and I think maybe Monk and I were also talking this, but they're already setting up a rivalry between Sephiroth and Cloud and putting Tifa in the middle of it. And it makes sense that later on, when Tifa sees Sephiroth, who is the greatest war hero ever and all this other stuff, big celebrity, she's like, nah, any blonde soldiers around here? I'm talking about the Crisis Core. She has no reaction to them. And that's Nojima once again cutting down yet another, debunking yet another claim about Tifa. Oh, she just wanted a soldier and blah, blah, blah. She only liked Cloud because he was going to be a soldier. It's like, she was standing like right there in front of Zack and Sephiroth, two first-class soldiers, and was
Mr.
like,
Two bottles of shampoo per shower.
Yeah. At least. But she was like, yeah, anybody else come with y'all? Like, no. Okay, I'm out of here. And then sending him emails talking about, any blonde soldiers? A girl would love a blonde knight in shining armor to come save her. Come on. She obviously just wanted Cloud.
Well, crap, that means I'm out of the running, but
Well, I'm out of it too. No, I was kidding. Okay, so then let's read the passage here. It's just quicker for me to read it here. So for a brief, that's when she falls in love with him. For a brief moment, time stood still on the water tower. She hadn't come intending to say something like that. It just popped into mind. Oh, okay, got you. But once the promise was sealed, it seemed to her a thing of singular importance. She discovered that Cloud, the quiet boy who had always seemed as unreachable as the stars, was just a normal boy like any other. She'd come to understand that she did like him, and it was the special kind of like, the one that ties up your heart, making you yearn to be with that person for the rest of your days. Now, that isn't a confirmation of Tifa. Tifa is obviously in love with Cloud. I don't know what it is. And there was another part talking about the stars first. He was beautiful, untouchable. He was a beautiful, untouchable presence, like one of the countless stars glittering in the distant sky. There's so many romantic passages in these first couple pages. I mean, this is how Nojima chose to open the book with this
Yeah.
stuff. It
Mhm.
is you don't open up a book with something that doesn't matter. You don't open up a book with something like this that doesn't lead to something more later on.
Of course.
The romance between Cloud and Tifa is the first thing. If you know the way people consume books, most people don't finish a book. I won't say most. A lot of people do not finish books, okay?
Mhm.
But they'll at least get that first part. So Nojima's like, if y'all don't get nothing but these first 25, 50 pages, this is what I want you to know about Final Fantasy VII.
Mhm.
That Cloud and
And
Tifa
that
grew up together, that Tifa's in love with, confirmed in love with Cloud, that Cloud is the one that asked her on that water tower date in that super romantic way, and all this stuff leading all the way up to the confirmation of her being in love with him. And there's so many things scattered in here that show that Cloud obviously has feelings for Tifa too.
Mhm. And maybe a nightmare can speak to this as well. But as in one of my previous jobs was as a driving instructor, and one of the things that they did teach us is that that the student learns best at the beginning and at the end of the lesson. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's always like a good 15-20 minutes where they're taking in all the information, and then after that the information they're retaining drops off, and then when it comes to the end, then it starts to pick up again, and then and they retain the information at the beginning and at the end. And as you said, and that makes total sense. That, like, as you said, you just like writing a story, you want the reader uh to retain that first part of the story or the reader retains that first part of the story, so you hit them with that. And yeah, you hit them with and you hit them with the romance is telling. It's very, very telling.
Absolutely. Especially when you know the history of the Final Fantasy VII fandom and just the controversies around this. For him to open this up, taking a huge chunk out of the LTD narrative, this
Hmm.
this faux LTD narrative that's been running in this fandom for 26 years at this point. It really is incredible. I mean, it's about as bold of an opening as he could have made. I'm still in shock every time I read this book. I am still in shock. So, and by the way, what you mentioned about that people remembering the end as well, especially with the Japanese, for them to end it with Aerith telling Tifa she wants to tell her about her first love. That's the last 2 pages. It's Tifa. I'm sorry, Aerith saying twice to Tifa, "I'm going to tell you about my first love." That's how he chose to end the book. Now, when I say end the book, I mean in Aerith's portion of the book.
Yes.
This has picture in the past in it. To be honest, I don't remember if the Japanese has picture in the past, because I mean, obviously, I own it, but I didn't. I'm looking at my shelf. I own it, but obviously, I didn't read it because it was in
Yeah.
Japanese. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
picture in the past is actually in the world preview book as well. So, it does. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Nightmare does. Yeah, but to end Aerith's portion with that being the last thing, and once again, even if you're just talking about the individual sides, Tifa and Aerith, you start out Tifa's side with Aerith. You start out Aerith's side with Aerith.
Mhm.
Yeah, he has these things in mind. He wants one of the things he wants the reader to know as well is that these two women respect each other. They aren't fighting over no man. Certainly not Cloud. Okay, they are not gonna fight over Cloud. Okay, Aerith
Mhm.
is well
Mhm.
aware that these two are into each other. She like, I ain't trying to be no second wheel, okay, or third wheel, whatever. So, uh, but yeah.
Not like the original instruction manual, but we don't want to talk about no more.
Oh, OG was just, I'll say this. Remake has exposed a lot of the flaws of OG. As
Hmm.
far as how it was clear that there was some stuff that was just rushed and just not explained well. And yes, that doesn't excuse people who refuse to just acknowledge that Square Enix has told you what what it meant, even if you didn't understand it in the game. That does not excuse people like that. But I will say, yeah, if you especially if you only play it once, you can absolutely be confused about what the hell is going on. In general. I'm just talking about in general. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, the boys leave town, and one thing that they to keep going, sorry, gotta love the 90s super. I want to read what Nightmare said. It's the most important thing in the entire book that Nojima wants people to know and understand going into the rest of the remake. Because, again, this is the backbone of the series, as Toriyama said. It's also the most recognizable part of the story, Cloud and Tifa's relationship / the promise. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because he doesn't go into the Mount Nebel incident. He doesn't go into the Nibelheim incident, because we're going to see that stuff in game. Well, and it's stuff that would be spoiled at this point. But he goes into great detail about this Night of the Promise. I mean, great detail. Yeah. And, so to keep going, the boys end up leaving. They give her a hug. All of them give her a hug and stuff. And promise to, come back or whatever. In fact, Emilio, so this part, the night before Emilio's departure, he showed up at her home swearing he'd come back. Wait for me, he pleaded. So, that's the thing. The other boys gave her a promise and stuff too. She just didn't care. I mean, I won't say she didn't care. I don't want to make her sound heartless. It's just, that's not what she wanted.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
She wanted.
Exactly.
Cloud is the only one that she asked a promise of. So again, this is no Jim. I mean, he's just debunking these nonsense takes about Tifa one by one, because it's like, oh well, she would have taken any promise. It's like, no, she didn't want any of their promises. She wanted Cloud's
I like
promise.
that. I actually like that. I really like that congruency and that kind of like that mirroring over there in that sort of way. That like it's she wanted to make Cloud promise her something that he'd come back, but the other boys are just like, and particularly Emilio was just like, no, I'll be back. Wait for me. It's just like no, it's they're asking her. The three boys, the three boys are asking her to wait for her,
Her to wait for them. Yeah, they're asking her to wait for
them. But she's the one that's that's telling Cloud, come back for me. And like it's a beautiful congruency there.
Absolutely. I can't get enough of this. Oh, okay. I'll try. That's what we. Ooh, I still don't know if we're gonna make it to page 50 this time, folks. I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to skip forward. But yeah, it's great. And I made a post about this earlier, right before we got here on the stream. So when he gets to Cloud, basically it says that Cloud, his convoy. Oh, okay, so it's Cloud. So he screwed up his paperwork. Basically, it says Tifa later heard on account of Tifa later heard that it was on account of him not having his application papers entirely in order. So of course Cloud screwed up the the papers, and so there was a little delay in him leaving. And but sadly, the people that came to pick him up came in the middle of the night. So the only person he got to say goodbye to was his mom. So when Tifa woke up, he was gone. Which just breaks my heart, because actually that reminds me, out of nowhere, that reminds me of Northern Crater, because she had passed out, and then when she woke up, Cloud was gone. I was like, oh god, there's so many parallels. What I love about Cloud and Tifa, it's not just one, like, it's not just parallels in the same book or anything. Like, you can see these parallels throughout the entire 26-year series, in different sections for different things. So what I posted about with that is this portion right here. Thus, Tifa didn't hear about Cloud's departure until the next morning. There had been no goodbye, no promise to meet again, no hug. Her first reaction was to laugh. In a way, it wasn't surprising. That's how her relationship with Cloud always had been. Then the laughter turned. I'm sorry. Then the laughter broke and turned to sobs. So like, but again, what I like about that is she did eventually get her hug in the resolution scene. So yeah, even though it is technically an optional scene, like, you still get this continuance. So she wanted that hug 7 years ago that she never got because he was basically ripped away from her. in the middle of the night, and then in the middle of the night, she gets that hug she wanted. Oh, it's just
Right.
so good. I can't help myself. Ah! Okay, sorry. Okay.
And here's a little kind of like reading between the lines, extrapolation kind of thing. Is that throughout the remake, you see that real side of Cloud come out when he's around Tifa, and the fact that like she's actually like in his embrace physically, they're holding each other, and they get and the fact that he's actually squeezing her so tightly and everything, it just confirms it's sort of kind of like a confirmation for Tifa herself that this is the real Cloud, and that is going to play into the future when Cloud doesn't know who the hell he is, and she always and she maintains, "You are the Cloud for Nibelheim. You are my Cloud."
Oh, yes. Oh man, Nibelheim. Oh my god, everything around Nibelheim is going to be insane. Just absolutely insane. Nightmare said, "Look at God. Cloud is special to Tifa after all." But yeah, we have to get some angst in this first part, because they are a slow burn relationship,
Yeah.
And in that sense, and there's two meanings to star-crossed. One is the actual meaning. The other one is what people conventionally think of as star-crossed. Star-crossed, to me, the true meaning of it is people who just were not meant to be together. Like, the reason it keeps not working out is because you don't need to, like Romeo and Juliet. But then there's the more conventional way that people use it, which star-crossed is like the universe. So that's how. Well, I'm not going to go there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to what I was saying. So there is a sense of them that is the conventional uses of star-crosses, which is other forces are keeping us away from each other. But eventually, and so that's how I kind of think of slow burn. And I think slow burn is probably a better term, because star-crossed, like I said, it's a muddy term at this point. You ask 10 people what it means, you'll get 10 answers. You know what I mean? But no, that slow burn requires that things keep. It's like you can't quite, and then finally when they get together, it's like but it's frustrating in the meantime. It's like
yeah.
So Cloud and Tifa, definitely that slow burn. My God, because it Cloud's the one boy who the truck shows up in the middle of the night to get him. So he can't even say goodbye to. I'm sure he wanted to say goodbye, but he was like, I'm not gonna wake Tifa up in the middle of the night. Just plus Brian would have killed him anyway. Like... Yeah, Brian would have killed him if he did. So.
And you know what? And you know what? It's the idea of that slow burn that they portray between Cloud and Tifa, that makes me personally like, if I was to get with somebody, yeah, I would be okay with the slow burn, because it's it's yes. I'm basing it off a fictionalized version of it, but the thing is, the fact that people write about it means that it's something that is possible, and it's and that's the thing about Cloud and Tifa, is that they're not the fairy tale romance fantasy kind of thing.
Yes.
They're a very, very real, genuine, authentic,
realistic,
every man, every woman couple.
Absolutely, and those are the type of relationships that last, because. Fairy tales are cute, but you hardly ever see in a Disney movie what happens the next day after the marriage. Okay, so we've known each other a week, we fell in love and got married. What happens that next week? What happens a month later? What happens after that first fight and y'all realize y'all don't know who the hell each other is? Like, that's that, and so that's and it's not that. Love it. There's necessarily an issue with love first, whatever. Like I think of Zarathul's love at first sight. I mean, it is, but they also dated for 2 years. They also got along. Like they had that time to get to one. They didn't jump into like, let's get married tomorrow, and then it's, they dated for 2 years and got to know each other, and that's why their love has such longevity. Even when Zach is gone half a decade, she still has those feelings there. But if any romance where it's just like, oh yeah, we get married, it's all, hey, this month has been fantastic, let's go, and then you wonder why, because I watch a lot of divorce court, and a lot of these stories start just like that. I knew he was the one the second I saw him and all this other stuff. And then, but then I found out that he had 2 kids here and he was sleeping with this bitch over here and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, girl, you didn't know him. It's not love, it's lust. Okay? Or get to know the man before you jump into a marriage with him. Anyway, sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, Supernova over here saying, "Nightmare, I will commission you to write about their first fight." Well, we know how that's gonna end.
Oh yeah. Okay. I might want to see that.
Check out Nightmare stuff on fan fictions as well too, because if you're looking for some very 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 good entertainment,
if you're looking for some spicy, first off, she's just an amazing writer, amazing person really, but definitely an amazing writer. So yeah, if you want some really spicy stuff to read for Cloud and Tifa, it's not all spice too. She has a lot of cute stories too, and then I love her.
That's why I say entertaining.
Yeah, and I love the way she writes about Strife family too, because Cloud and those kids together are just so freaking adorable. Anyway, so Nightmare said no good romance has a straight path. Absolutely. So that's what we're talking about. So yeah,
very true.
I just
very true.
The older I get, the more I'm just like, this whole love at first sight alone, and can give no real reason why it's love at first sight. And I'm not throwing shade at any particular ships. I'm just saying, there's no particular reason they fell in love or anything. It's just they saw each other, cute eyes or whatever. It's I love pink or whatever, so I'm in love now. I can't tell you why, but I'll go on for the rest of my days after 3 weeks that I knew you, and I'll go for the rest of my days alone and miserable because I knew you for 3 weeks. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I meant no ship in particular about it. Okay, now back to the That's our regularly scheduled programs. So yeah, whoo. And by the way, throughout this, she's talking to Barrett and Red 13, Aerith, different people coming into the conversation as she's talking. So another thing that I like is Tifa. Once everybody's gone, she starts kind of almost secluding herself, really. Because all her friends are gone, Cloud's gone. And so she starts getting into hobbies. So I like her hobbies: reading books, sewing, and cooking. Right? And you find, and later she's a great cook. So cooking is one of my hobbies. Now I'm sure this is again because she's a girl, and all part of it is, which I think she enjoys cooking. But also it says in here when her mom died, all the village women started teaching her how to cook. So that would include Claudia. So Cloud's mom taught Tifa how to cook. And
I think I mentioned this in our group chats before, but then I'm sure that when one of the reasons why Cloud becomes real Cloud around Tifa is because when he steps into Seventh Heaven and she's got food on the grill, it smells like home.
Oh, absolutely. That's a big. I wouldn't even call it headcanon at this point because we know that Claudia helped teach her how to cook. So, but yeah, I just think, what would Tifa best know how to cook? She would be doing village cooking, just as Supernova said. So, yeah, Cloud is going to smell home when he smells Tifa's cooking. It's just great. They just have so many layers to them. But and I like the sewing because I do wonder now if she was actually going to make her outfit for Wall Market, because she would have certainly had the ability to. But yeah, I say too much. Sorry, I'm trying to get that out of my vocabulary.
That's okay.
I do that when I'm trying to think.
We all have our tics. We all have our vocal tics. I'm still trying to get rid of a whole bunch of mine too.
Yes, so. Yes.
And I get paid to talk on a microphone. Anyway.
Now, another thing that it says is, what I really love is she starts to appreciate Cloud for for his personality. And this goes into the relationship as well later on. So it says a slower, more peaceful world had opened up to her, and it prompted another realization. This had to be why Cloud preferred to spend his time alone. He liked his quiet solitude. Before, Tifa had felt bad for him. She assumed he was lonely, an assumption that now struck her as terribly presumptuous and more than a little embarrassing. Now she understood that it was a choice. Cloud chose to block out the things that he found distasteful or troublesome to deal with. It filled her with envy. It meant that in a way, Cloud was her exact opposite. She imagined how different her life could be if only she possessed the resolve to stick to her own convictions. So
Mm-hmm.
this goes into, once again, I think what we were talking about with their status in the village as an example, but also what's expected out of a man versus a woman as well. Again, talking about a traditional village.
Right.
Women are expected to be, we're expected to do what is expected of us. And especially if you are a councilman's daughter, you are not supposed to be the secluded, just do what you want to. If people are coming up to you, they want to talk, or if people ask for your presence, or there's some sort of event going on in the city or in the village, you're expected to be
Mm-hmm.
there. You're supposed to be nice, and she has to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of performing for people, and I'm sure it
Oh
does
yeah.
get tiring. And this is very deep thinking for a 13-year-old, by the way, because she's 13 at this point, 13, 14 at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she sees that about Cloud, and nobody expects anything of Cloud, so he also just, he's a boy, so there's different things expected of him. He's not expected to be running around like, oh, hey, how you doing, everybody? But also,
Mm-hmm.
since he doesn't have high status in the village, yeah, he can get away with doing a lot of what he wants to. Now, what? Well, let's start there, and then I do want to tie it in a bit to Seventh Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nightmare said Kazushige Nojima is a feminist literary icon. He really is. But what do you have any thoughts about that particular part?
Well, I mean, like you've pretty much said pretty much everything I'd like to say. But I would also say that, like, in terms of um, and I think also one of the reasons, I think, on top of everything that you've said, that you know that the reason why Cloud is such a secludes himself, that he's a loner or whatever like that, in that sort of way. There's also a part of me that thinks that, like, that the people of Nibelheim. I was about to say the village people, but that
Yeah.
sounds a whole different. Anyway, but the people of Nibelheim would also kind of want to almost have Cloud be a little bit more a little bit more involved, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that thinks that maybe that they would have liked to see him a little bit more involved, but they're also, at the same time, they have a disdain for him. They have a disdain for the Strife family.
Mm-hmm.
And they have even more of a disdain for him after the fall from the mountain. It's a complicated thing, and one thing, it's like Cloud likes to have his solitude. At the same time, it's not exactly his all. It's not all his own choice. It's also by circumstance that's happening. That his solitude is happening to him, and same thing with Tifa. Her need to be in public life. Her requirement as the town councilman's daughter to be in public life also is something that is not necessarily her choice, but is also from circumstance. So there's a nice parallel between those two things, but also kind of like an opposite way of parallel in that sort of way.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's just a lot of deep stuff going on here that, and that's one thing about Final Fantasy VII. You can take a lot of real world concepts and circumstances and things and apply it here. You can see it. You read about Nibelheim and you can imagine this type of place. It's just the details, and the stories that he's telling about this village all come together in your mind, and you really can imagine what it would be like to live in this village based on Nojima's writing. It's amazing. I can't get enough of it. She's the only girl. Yeah, Nightmare answered it for me, but Supernova was asking if Tifa was the only girl. No, they mentioned in a couple pages previous before some other girls came to say goodbye to Tyler and them or something like that. There's other kids. There's just only 5 in Tifa's age range. So Amelia and the boys, and then Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But yeah, I like that. Now, and I think this informs a lot of how Tifa chooses to approach Cloud later on so for instance in chapter 3, the she's not trying to get Cloud to be fun. She's not trying to get Cloud to be everybody's best friend. What she is teaching Cloud is, you're not living with your mom anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like you do have to be able to sustain your own living, and your own livelihood now. Which obviously he knows that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there are certain qualities you need to have in order to do that. If you're going to run a successful business, as an example, there are just natural connections you need to make to survive. So the things that Tifa is teaching him is, make connections. You don't have to like the people on the team, but you can work with them, and he does work with Avalanche, even when they're not getting along, even when him and Baird are not getting along. They work very well in battle together because they know this is a survival. Like this is a job, we need to get it done, and this is in a lot of parts of this. You need to be able to trust the person that you're with because this is ride or die right here. You know what I mean? When this Scorpion Sentinel is coming after us, we need to survive. It's not about whether I like you. It's about us getting this done. So she's getting him skills of like working with a team. She's getting him skills of making connections because that's one thing she says. If you want to build your rep, if you want to get this job going, you got to make connections. And to make connections, you need to be able to talk to people and you need to be able to prove yourself. And those are the things he did. He wasn't running around being everybody's best friend, and all that. And so, she was teaching him life skills, and through that, because just naturally, as you talk more to people, you are going to start to trust more, and you're going to open up more, which is exactly what happened with Avalanche. He started, again, they weren't playing tea parties at the end of the day, but
right.
Cloud was rather cordial with them by the end of it all,
And he was able to appreciate their personalities and the charm that they have. Like Wedge being the ultimate the ultimate optimist, and just Biggs just fidgeting around and just like worrying about how he looked to Jesse, and then and him trying to fight off Jesse's advances, but at the same time understanding that understanding that deep down she's an okay girl. I'm kind of like I kind of like your best friend here.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's one great thing. Yeah,
and that's and also with something here that Lady Supernova is saying is that the thing with Cloud, though, everybody likes him, and that is and that's also something that's almost kind of foreign to Cloud, growing up in Nibelheim, because he felt that nobody liked him, but then here he is, and so there's a part of him, I think, that has that at first it's a little bit confusing, a little bit tougher to let down his walls a little bit. Because he never experienced something like that.
Yeah, and he also goes into this. I was actually reading this out of Ultimate Omega, but he also says this in the live stream, saying, at first he says, I thought they were idiots and stuff like that, talking about the boys, and then because he's talking to Tifa, he tells her the truth. He's like, I realized that I was the idiot. I actually did want to join y'all. I just couldn't bring myself to ask. And so you see that there's always been this level of insecurity with Cloud. So I think rather than like this is how some people express their insecurity, is to lash out, or is to, I'm gonna let me see. Yeah. Imposter syndrome too. I'm going to reject you before you get a chance to reject me type deal. And so,
right.
Cloud is such a psychological case to study. I just, man. This is why it's always been my favorite character. So much. You could write a freaking book on Cloud's Strike. Okay, let's see. We got I'm not gonna go past 2 hours because I'm gonna go hold you here all night. Let's see. So now we've at least gotten to Zangan.
Yep.
uh,
Somehow.
I like how even when she sees Zangan in the water, she sees this like guy. So she says this: his hair was gray yet full of vitality. He wore it long in the back, pulled into a ponytail, just like Cloud. Tifa realized though the stranger's locks were quite a bit longer. So she even looking at this old dude is like, oh, he kind of looks like Cloud. It does kind of remind me of the Cloud Air Zack thing, because it's like she kept saying like, y'all look exactly like him, though you look. It's like, girl, he don't look nothing like Zack. What are you talking about? Oh, then she says it in the Gold Saucer Day thing. She's like, yeah, y'all look exactly alike, but y'all are nothing. You know, she just kept going back and forth. But I think it's just when you really are in love with a person, you see them everywhere. Like a part of you, you know. So you see one thing that reminds. Now I'm not saying she's chasing around Zangan because of that. Don't get me wrong. This is totally different conversations. I'm just saying she just saw the ponytail, was like, "Oh, that looks like Cloud." The ponytail reminds me of Cloud.
Yep.
So
I had a similar experience a few times. It's like, you know, there's one type of car that had the same name as the girl I was checking out, and seriously, every time every time I would go out for a drive, whether I'd be going to work, whether I'm going to, like, you know, see friends or whatever like that, I would encounter at least 10 of these cars, and I was just like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yep. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is where she meets Zangan, and he looks like he's stuck in this river, basically. And like the water's raging. He looks like he's in danger. So Tifa, she recalls this time where Emilio got stuck in the riverbank and had to be pulled out by the adults. And then, you know, talks about how kids aren't allowed there anymore under a certain age. But Tifa sees him and, you know, she starts screaming, are you all right? Hang on, I'll get help. And then Zanga's like, oh, no, I'm good. Observe. And so he does some, you know, techniques and flips out the water and comes jumping up to her. And this is who teaches Tifa her fighting style. The it's literally called Zangan style, right? I'm not making that up, right? Yeah. Okay. It's a pleasure to meet you. And it's funny because at first she's kind of freaked out by his behavior. She's like, yeah, nice to meet you. And he's kind of rough with her and he's like checking her out. He's like, interesting. And so at first she's like, is this dude like what is he up to? Because he's asking to look at my calves and stuff. And so she freaks out and runs home, not knowing what he's up to. Then it turns out her dad tells her that he's a martial artist that's in town, a martial artist expert. And so he's going to be doing some event the next day. She puts two and two together. She was very intuitive for her age. She puts two and two together, like, oh, that creeper that I met in the water must be this dude he's talking about. So, and I love how she jumped into the shower, anxious to wash away the mountain dust and disturbing memory of her close encounter. Okay. I don't blame her though, because that'd have freaked me out. Some grown man grabbing me talking about, hey, nice arms. Let me look at your calf muscles, and I don't know who he is. And she said, of course I mind. So that is when she meets him, and he does a demonstrate. He does like a little speech in front of the residents of Nibelheim right here. Says, residents of Nibelheim, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy morning to attend today's lesson. So he does one of the lessons that Tifa ultimately starts teaching the villagers. But everybody else is kind of like fumbling and bumbling about it and not quite sure where I'm at, Lex. Around 27. Let's see. Hold on. For people wanting to follow along, maybe I should actually start notating where exactly we are.
I'm thinking we're on 25. Yeah, we're on 25.
25.
Um,
Good God.
all right, yeah, all right then. The stranger said, "Let's begin. I like you all to extend your arms and turn in a slow circle. This is to make sure you have enough space and won't be running into anyone during these exercises. Please spread out if you need to."
Mm-hmm.
The villagers, as of yet unimpressed, slowly shuffled out across the main square as instructed. Zangan remained in front, nodding his approval when everyone seemed sufficiently spread apart. Maybe, I'll see if I can put a sensei voice on. Very good. Now, friends of Nibelheim, the first exercise is as follows. Take both arms and lift them straight above your head. Upper arms by your ears, palms facing forward, fingers pointed toward the sky. Pull yourself as straight as you can. Reach! Imagine a messenger of the heavens has dangled down to grab your wrists and is now pulling you up to paradise. Visualize yourself floating in the air. Slowly now. No need to rush. Once you pulled yourself as taut as you can, I want you to hold that pose. Remain just as you are.
That's pretty good. Oh man, I can't wait to see Zangon. In fact, I hope we see him in. Well, I don't know if we'll see him in Calm Incident because that's from Cloud's perspective. But that'd be a nice
Right.
Easter egg if we saw him like around town or something like that. That would be a very nice Easter egg. Well, no, wait, because he is there.
Because he
He's there.
does save.
Yeah.
He does save Cloud. Doesn't he?
No, I know he's running around trying to help other villagers. I don't think he ever helped Cloud, but he helped other
No,
villagers.
well, after like the real Nibelheim incident. After Cloud tosses Sephiroth into the Mako reactor and he falls and he falls as if dead.
No,
Uh,
he only helps Tifa. That's why Tifa's
mm.
the only one that got out.
Oh right,
Hojo grabbed Cloud. Yeah, no problem. It's been a while since I played too, so I'm sitting there like, no, okay, hold on. No, he never helped Cloud. He saw the other people lying there, but he was like, I could only because that's what he says in his letter in OG when you get Tifa's final limit break. He says, you know, there were others that could be helped, but I saw you, and that was the only thing I could do is get you out. So I got you out, and that's how you know that. In OG, that's how you know how she got to Midgar. This is just a much more expanded
Right.
version of
Yes.
how she got to
Yes.
Midgar.
Yes.
So yeah, basically Zangan is teaching the entire town, and he's noticing that Tifa. So it says Tifa saw that he was still watching her intently. He's taking notice of Tifa specifically. Wait, hold on. What? Body does not waver unless mind does, and now my friends still remember. Or still tremble like newly hatched chocobo chicks. So he's testing the villagers to see if he can point out someone who could be his student, basically. And blah 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 blah.
Kind of reminds me of an. I mean, like maybe I don't know too much about this, but there's almost like I mean, Ip Man being Bruce Lee sensei.
Mm-hmm.
And him developing his own Bruce Lee developing his own style inspired by what he learned from Ip Man. So and Tifa does develop, like, she does fight in Zangan style, but I'm pretty sure she does incorporate her own and make her own particular style of fighting that is obviously based off of Zangan. So
Yes, yes. And by the way, Nightmare, because I was thinking him and Zack had an interaction, but I couldn't remember. Nightmare said that he spoke to Zack at the end. That's what I was thinking of. I didn't think it was Cloud.
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
he spoke to Zack. Cloud and Zangan never interacted, as far as I know. But yeah, I feel like I'm seeing you in a whole new light. Let's see. Okay, so Tifa pretty much is the one to remain. Her father gave up at some point. Martial artist was again on the move, winding his way through the square. Okay. Tifa recalled the events of the previous afternoon. I'd fancy a closer look at those calves of yours. He said. Tifa, she gasped softly. Suddenly, it all fell into place. A single word floated into her mind: trafficker. Now, even though this is a more, lighthearted part, because you later was like, no, Zangan is not a pedophile or like, it's nothing like that's going on.
right, exactly.
But there are a lot of things like this going on in Tifa's side, and this is why Nightmare aptly said that Nojima, like, he really made Tifa's portion of the book into like a big feminist. What is the way I'm trying to say it? Uh, there's a, it's a lot of feminism happening in Tifa's portion of the book, and by that I mean, so even down to, so first off, we talked about her, first off, her being a girl and how all the, I mean, even her dad is saying like, oh, she'll be a nice suitor one day, won't she? uh,
Right.
sorry, you'll be a nice suitor for my daughter one day, to the other boys.
She's the one who chooses Cloud, and as opposed to the boys choosing her.
Exactly. She has made her choice. So, even though her dad expects her to marry one of these boys, because, you got the, like, for instance, Emilio is the shop keeper's son. Well, that's a certain, business owner. That's a certain level of status in certainly in a small community like that. Probably a big
Mm-hmm.
level of status, honestly. You're
Yeah.
the shopkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then Tifa deciding to learn to fight. I'm sure that was quite unconventional. But also it deals a lot with a lot of sexism, for instance, not sexism, but also just things that women have to go through. For instance, later on in this portion of the book, the villagers would often talk about how Tifa is growing into adulthood. They would tease Tifa about basically how she's growing into a woman. Something made her really uncomfortable. It's like, why is that the only thing y'all want to talk? Like, I'm literally sitting here teaching y'all how to, because she was teaching those classes at that point, of basically
Mm-hmm.
teaching the older villagers how to stretch, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
What they want to talk about was her body and just like her becoming a woman, and oh, you're gonna be a great this and that one day, and you're gonna make somebody a beautiful wife and all this other stuff. It's like, y'all are not seeing me. You're just
Yeah.
seeing.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so the things that she had to go through as a young woman, he goes
Mm-hmm.
into, but especially when you get into the Midgard section, a lot of stuff there. But yeah, just these societal expectations of women, and then also, uh, because there are people, whether maliciously or not, have certain ideas about who Tifa must be because she wears a because she wears a skirt and has a midriff. Oh well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course she was dating everybody. Of course she, and no matter where she's at, whether she's in Nibelheim or whether she's in Seventh Heaven, which there are tons of parallels between Nibelheim and Seventh Heaven. I mean, not Seventh Heaven. I'm sorry, Sector Seven. And then
Yes.
she's the talk of the town in both.
Mm-hmm.
She's the girl, or she's the woman. All the women look up to her, all the men want her, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that certain fans have expectations of as far as her character and who she must be. And Nojima breaks a lot of stereotypes with Tifa, and a lot of misconceptions with Tifa's character in that sense. So it's just so many good things in this book, around
and
that.
that's what I and that's something I appreciate. What I've learned, what I've learned to appreciate, not just with my theater background and my wrestling background and whatever like that. It's the character. It's developing a good character and fitting that character or creating a story from that developed character, or the other way around. Great story and you have great characters, and that's the thing is that like it's you need to be able to see the characters for who the people are. If you just see them for just the function that they play in the story, then you're missing out on then you're missing out on a huge chunk of what is trying to of the information that's trying to be transmitted over here through through the story, because you can't have it's like I've seen, non-shippers or whatever, neutrals or something like that, who try to take the character out of the story and
Yes.
just look at the story beats and just try to extrapolate information that way. That's not the way to do it. You have to look at a literary work with its whole for its whole meaning, and it's the same thing when it comes to getting to know a human being. You can't just look at the person just and and just stop at I was like, oh, she's attractive or he's this and she's that, whatever like that. But no, there's a lot more beneath the surface that you need to that you want to that if you really want to know somebody, you want to get to know that person, you got to dig deep, and if of course consent wise, obviously, right?
Yeah,
And everything, but it's like there's so much more to a person that once you do see that part of that person, then they feel seen and they feel validated. They feel that they feel that somebody else out there, actually gets them for more than just the surface.
absolutely. Well spoken. And on that same thing, another, in a sense, it's uh, there's just been so many misconceptions about the women in the story in general.
Hmm.
And I think, for me, and maybe this is because I'm a Tifa fan, but I think this is an objective observation, especially Tifa, because, well, I mean, I think there's a reason you get 200 pages of Tifa's story. You know, uh,
Hmm.
it seems Nojima was very passionate about going through as much about her past as possible, um, and correcting the record on a lot of stuff because, and the part of this is just because OG was light with information, lighter with information for all the characters. All the characters have benefited from the compilation, but then because there's Tifa is a different type of heroine as well.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is there's like no something that is specifically like she's not of some um special race or anything like that. This is not a knock to earth. I'm just saying it's like nothing like you say Tifa Lockhart, last ABC or something like that.
Right. Right.
Tifa's story in the game is she's an internal Huron in the sense
Yeah.
that the roles that these two play, um to me, Aerith is what I call, and I'm probably not using the terms right. Nightmare might be able to give me a better sense of how to say this. But the two Herons play uh very important role. They both play very important roles. But
Hmm.
I would think of Aerith as an external Heron, Tifa as an internal
Yes.
Heron. So
Yes.
Aerith being external, she's the one who her mission is to save the planet, like the physical saving of the planet.
Hmm.
Tifa's role is to save the hero, and so I say eternal because it's a personal thing that's happening between the two of them. It's not. First off, it's an internal struggle that Cloud is going through, and it's their personal relationship that allows her to be his hero. It can't just be
Hmm.
anybody. It's not just about, if it was just about knowing the truth of the Nibelheim incident, then the live stream scene would have ended in the first 10 minutes because he would have like he realizes that, oh no, A, B, and C didn't have blah blah. The reason the live stream scene is so long is because until Tifa helped him accept himself, accept his true story, and she gave him the acceptance he was looking for. It's like, her saying, I don't care that you weren't a soldier. Like, that's not, you're my Cloud. I want to get you back.
Hmm.
I don't care about whether you were a soldier or not, stuff like that. And she apologizes for not being able to help him with the Mount Nebulance and stuff, like basically giving her forgiveness, like, you don't have anything to be forgiven for. I never blamed you. And that's one thing, like, they never blamed each other for this. And him releasing all that guilt that he felt for no reason. I mean, it's not anything that she put on him. It's his internal. Okay, sorry. Tifa's the only one who calls him out for who he really is in the first place. You've really changed, exactly. So once he gets her acceptance, her love, or forgiveness, then it opens up the floodgates for him to accept his true self and remember the Nibelheim incident. It's not just a matter of fact. I mean, because Sephiroth told him most of what happened. If it was just about, oh, he had forgotten a couple of couple of details, that's not what's going on. What Sephiroth said was mostly the truth. He just lied at the end and said you were a puppet. You know. Yeah, but anyway, I'm rambling now. Sorry. Yeah, so these two play just different roles, and Tifa's role does not become apparent, really apparent, until you get closer to the live stream scene. Whereas from the beginning, you're told Aerith is etc. She's the last of her race. She's supposed to save the planet, and so it's very her role is very digestible. It's not something you have to go searching for in a sense. Does that make sense? From the beginning, it's not clear what Tifa, other than the fact she's a badass fighter, you get that, but why she's a central hero to the story, that doesn't come until later. So I think there was just, because of that, a lot of people just dismissed her. And not everybody, because obviously Tifa sells out more than anybody, even Cloud, half the time at this point. I mean, she's extremely popular. I'm just saying there's a certain faction of the fandom. And I'm not even just talking about shipping. I'm just like, whether it's casuals or whatever it is, who just completely misunderstood or missed the point of Tifa's character. And so this is why this book was just so incredible for any Tifa fan. Now I'm just rambling as a Tifa fan. Sorry. This book was so incredible for Tifa fans because it's showing how is showing more than ever how layered her character is, which we see a lot more of for all the characters, as I said, in remake, but her again, she has so many layers to her, and you see how she went from nothing to being one of the greatest fighters on earth. She's a business owner. She's a surrogate mom to Marlene. She's a great friend. She's so resourceful. And another thing I love about it is you see this progression in her character. So she was always Tifa, but you saw a little more feral, wilder side. What was that? I thought I saw something fly by my head. Sorry. Okay, I got it. You see a little more, like a childish side to Tifa because she's a child, but you see her grow into a woman. It's just great all around. I don't know what my original point was. I apologize. If you want to throw in anything, feel free.
Well, actually, that's something that kind of something you said earlier about, like, how Aerith's role is specifically laid out quickly, and then it takes a while as for you to discover what Tifa's role actually is in that sort of in that sort of way, and for people to dismiss Tifa just because or to dismiss the game or to dismiss Tifa and what happens with her and Cloud because Aerith dies in that first disc and everything is like it's and everything goes out of source in that sort of way. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's exactly that Aerith's death was supposed to make everything that was supposed to turn everything on its head. Aerith's death was supposed to make you feel that you've lost something, but the thing is, at the same time, one thing that some people in this fandom tend to forget, and this is something that I've also discovered this weekend in WrestleMania, is that's not the end of the story. There's
Thank you.
so much more story to be told.
I mean, honestly,
there's no more story to be and that's in the same way for anybody watching this who's also a wrestling fan. There was a controversial end to Night 2 of WrestleMania Sunday where everybody thought that this wrestler, that one wrestler, the challenger Cody Rhodes, was going to beat The Rock's cousin Roman Reigns, but it turns out Roman Reigns was able to beat Cody Rhodes with interference, but still the decision stood, and everybody's calling it such a disappointing decision. Oh, we're not going to be able to get to this get to this hype again, whatever like that. It's not going to be the same. No, it's not going to be the same, but it could turn out to be better. Just follow the story.
Follow the story.
It's going to and everything will be revealed as the storytellers will want it to see and will want us to see, and that's the reason why that it becomes so much more important to follow Tifa as we go along, not just in the book but also in the series. Is that because we'll know and see what her role is. We'll see what we'll let that story play out, and it's going to be an even richer story than what we expected it to be at first.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Nightmare said that's why they can't resolve anything in the live stream until they go back to the beginning, all the way to the mountain incident. Once that is revealed to them both, the rest of the puzzle can come together. Because yeah, pretty much right after all that's revealed, and they, she says, "I'm sorry, I wasn't able, I couldn't remember it sooner." And he's like, "It's not your fault, Tifa." Then they run right back to the to Nibelheim. It's like, "Oh, well, that's what happened. All right, let's get out of here." Like. Yeah, you had to go all the way back to the beginning. So that's why he spent so much time. And I apologize for anybody who saw the last one, and we pretty much only went over. We got a little further than the last time, but I'm probably gonna do this again Thursday, maybe Friday, just so we can make a little progress in it, but a little more progress. But yeah, that's why I think he spends a lot more time on Tifa's portion. So, because there's a combination of, one is critical to Cloud's, this is critical to Cloud's hero's tale, for one. Tifa is at the center of Cloud's hero's journey. You do not have, trying to tell the story Cloud Strife without Tifa in it is like, as I always say, trying to tell Batman's story without mentioning his parents being murdered. It was just impossible. Okay.
Right.
So
there's actually one. There's actually one part over here that is just leafing through again. Page 40. Near the bottom of the page. It's interesting that this was interesting that that they were going through, because of this goes into Tifa being the teacher and her having troubles teaching students.
Yeah.
And the way that so it goes. Tifa had come to appreciate the trouble with students this age. It was hard to tell if they were there to learn or to chat. When she complained about the endless gossip at home, her father laughed. "I tried to warn you," he said. "Boy, you couldn't get me to spend my mornings with old folks for 100 gil a day." They didn't listen. They were pushy. Even the better behaved ones watched eagerly from the sidelines, nodding and chuckling about whatever bit of gossip was currently being passed around. Tifa had always had to remind herself that they weren't being mean. They had just had a different way of communicating. She'd learned to follow the lines of conversation lest they get upset and lessen the mood, and the lesson's mood sour. The kind of topics they touched upon never failed to surprise and rarely failed to distress. Above all, they liked to giggle and tease about the fact that her body was blossoming into adulthood, and these were kids younger than her as well too. As far as I understand it, and she was lucky. Someone would notice her discomfort and change the subject. But the new threads of conversation were frequently just as bad. They start speculating about which of the village boys Tifa might end up with, or worse yet, they get on the topic of Tifa's parents, casually recounting her father's past breakups or the men her mother had dated prior to settling down. Interesting. To Tifa's students, Brian and Teo were just members of another generation of youngins, and their youthful blunders fair game for idle chatter. So they're still very, very young at this point.
No. To be clear.
No, okay. I was just gonna correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me.
You were saying that the people talking were younger than Tifa. No.
No, these are old people.
These
are the old people. Oh, okay. Okay.
These were the elders of the town talking about Tifa. These were the older generation. They were
okay.
they were talking about her parents and Claudia and stuff like that, because they've been around in the town for many generations. Some of them.
Yeah, exactly. This part right here.
These were the older folks, not younger people.
Yeah, and that's why. Because right here, I think it's Brian said, "I tried to warn you, boy. You couldn't get me to spend mornings with the old folks for 100 gil a day." So these are all older people, and so this leads into. Oh, you're good. Again, this part is so dense. It's so it's easy to mix up details and stuff. And so they're sitting there talking about her body blossoming into adulthood. Like, hey, you get a bunch of 60, 70-year-olds running around like, "Oh, girl, hey, you're filling out, aren't you?" It's like, okay, I guess. It's very uncomfortable. I mean, you're the teacher, and that's also very interesting, because she's the child, but she's talking about how immature the elders are. because Brian is calling them old folks, so they older than him. So, you can at least think
right.
40, 50, 60, and they're sitting there gossiping and stuff rather than paying attention. It's just like, this is basically the club for them. They just getting out the house. They're like, hey girl, you going to the class this morning? And so yeah, it's very interesting that it's kind of swapped on her head. But Tifa has also been learning to discipline herself, and you see how then a child could then end up in Midgar alone and survive. And she had to be very mature, and this leads again to Cloud's dream about the whole, having a mature girl who's going to keep you on the up and up. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Tifa is very mature for her age, and she's very mature for 20, let alone for 14,
Oh yeah,
50.
definitely.
Yeah,
But the end of that paragraph there. Sorry, Monk.
Oh, I was just gonna continue on what Stitch was saying. Is that you can tell that Cloud is very impressed by Tifa when he meets up with her at Midgar. He's like, how long have you been here? And he notices, she's got her life all put together there. And not only is she taking care of herself, but she's also taking care of him. And this is something that I've pointed out quite often, is that Tifa makes sure that Cloud doesn't have to deal with any of the things that she had to deal with when she was there alone in Midgar. She makes sure he has a place to stay. She makes sure he has food, water, a running shower, everything that he needs. And she sets him up for his first job there, and she makes sure that he has everything that he needs so that he doesn't have to go through any of the suffering that she did.
Absolutely. And it may not be just that because obviously she doesn't know that he lost 4 years of his life, but she knows that he started over in a sense, just because let's even say whatever he knew in the military, let's say he had been there the whole 4 years. Well, civilian life and military life are two different things, and then you're having to start over without any of the resources that you had before because you're on the run essentially. Yeah, so he is in a lot of places exactly where she was when she came there, and mentally 16, which she is not necessarily aware of yet. But they were essentially, when they got to Sector 7, in the same position. And even down to being, if they show it this way this time. Even like, let's say he's, I wouldn't say, I don't know if injured is the word, but you get what I'm saying, and all that, and having to recover, having to recover in some manner. So yeah, Monk is absolutely right on that. And hey, Monk, Tifa the Monk joined us.
Sorry, I came in fashionably late as always. Yeah, but I just got off of work and I saw you guys were still live, so I was like, I'll jump in.
Nice.
It's good to see you, Lex, and thank you again for letting me barge in here, Stitch.
No problem. What I'm gonna
nice
do?
Nice to hear your voice, Monk.
Yeah, what we did, like we've gotten a little bit further than we did the last time, but actually, we got like about 15 pages on my side to go, I think, before we're at 50. So yeah, because we jumped ahead a little bit, but I don't think basically what we went through. Oh yeah, now this is the important part. Before we get off of here, I definitely want to talk about this. So to mention what we were talking about, Lex with these are the older villagers. They start going into all the details about Thea and Claudia, and the stuff that they have to say about Claudia and Cloud. I would like to go over. So Mon Ami is the main one talking in a lot of this.
Yes. Let's
see. So when Mon Ami, I am I don't know. This is probably page 43, 44-ish. Well, the part I'm 43. Starting at is where Mon Ami's balance began to falter. So Mon Ami is, she's teaching Mon Ami how to do these techniques. She's faltering. Tifa helps her be steady. But then she starts talking about Cloud's family. And Tifa is like, yeah, Tifa's like, I'm not having this. So...
Oh, here we go. It's it. Mon Ami's balance began to falter. Tifa placed her hands at the woman's sides to steady her and said, but Mrs. Strife ended up staying in Nibelheim. That's right. Turns out love's the one thing you can't fight. A traveler passed through town, and the Strife girl was put in charge of finding him a place to stay. Didn't take 2 shakes before she was head over heels. Maybe it was the air of adventure about him. Who knows? Monami smiled and added, "Of course, the fella did have a real handsome face. You can see it in Cloud. That boy came from 2 fine-looking parents, and he got the best of them both." He did, But that man of Claudia's? He was like the wind. Never could settle down. One day, I reckon it was around the time Cloud would have been taking his first few steps. Claudia's man said he was going to head off to the mountain, and that was that. Never saw him again. Sometime later, a few of the villagers found his pack. Who knows what happened? Maybe he was gobbled up by a monster. You should count yourself lucky the same thing didn't happen to you.
Oh, yeah, go back and keep going a little further.
Sure. Tifa shuddered. Monami had veered off into another story. One Tifa would have been happy never to revisit. Maybe that's why Cloud talked you into climb up.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish what you were doing.
Okay. Maybe that's why Cloud talked you into climbing the mountain back then. I bet he's got his father's wild ways in him. The old woman began to lose her balance again, and this time Tifa offered no support. Monami quickly.
Yeah, we're good right there. We're good right there.
Cloud, I'm gonna let you fall on your butt
I'm
just
gonna
for
let
that.
people like, oh hell no, I'm gonna let this old look.
I love this line. Monami quickly dropped her leg to try to catch herself, but it was too late. She toppled backward, rear end planting unceremoniously in the dirt. Oh.
And then Tifa's like, let's try the other leg. Come on, back on your feet. She won't even help her up. She like, yeah, bitch, whatever. You gonna talk about my man. I tell you what.
Just making sure get.
If I may just talk briefly about this little passage here. You know, I know it's been pointed out before, but I do love the sort of light parallel between Claudia and Cloud's father, and also it's kind of paralleled in the way Tifa and Cloud are reunited in Midgar. And of course, they didn't meet in Midgar for the first time, but they are reunited, and Tifa is, again, much like Claudia, tasked with finding a place for Cloud to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Yes. I did not even think about that. That's great. Yeah, wow. And then there's also a small, I don't know if it'd be an exact parallel. I mean, well, it's not. It reminded me of this. Like when she starts talking smack about Cloud, she's like, yeah, nah. Tifa got, like Justin's word, but she got mad. And it did remind me of how even when Tifa isn't there, if somebody says something sideways about, in his mind, sideways about Tifa, he's like, nah. So that did remind me of Chocobo Sam, because it's not that Chocobo Sam was insulting her. Like, he didn't say something like Tifa's ugly or something. He was, in his mind, complimenting her body. But in Cloud's mind, it was an insult, because, like, why are you talking about Tifa's body like that? You know, like, why are you talking about her like, why are you eyeing Tifa's body and talking to me about it like I'm supposed to be cool with this? You know what I mean? So when this villager is talking smack about Cloud, she's like, hell no, nah, you gonna help yourself up, bitch.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that Cloud viewed it as disrespectful.
Exactly.
Because he knows he knows how Tifa is. He knows that she doesn't appreciate talk like that.
And that's another big theme that's in this, because right here with the whole block. Oh, let's talk to her about her body blossoming into a woman. Like, she found that insulting. That's why she was uncomfortable with it. And so the same thing with the Chocobo Sam thing, like talking about her body. Yeah. She doesn't like that.
Reducing her to just just about her body and not what she offers on the inside, her mind and her heart.
And then the boys, the Nightmare just said, goes back to the boys seeing her as a trophy. Absolutely, she's just the most beautiful girl in town, and yeah, obviously, you know, like because what else does it mean when they start saying that they don't see her as a friend anymore? They see her as a prize to be won. Like, they're talking about her looks, they're talking about her body, they're talking about her status. It's not about her. They're not seeing her. So yeah, right. And Nojima really just smacking around these ideas that you should only view Tifa as her body and stuff like that. It's just amazing what this man was writing in the game and in this book.
He
he makes the people who look at Tifa just as just looks at her looks. He makes them the bad guy. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he absolutely does. He spent this entire novel basically insulting anybody who views Tifa that way, and it is beautiful.
It is.
I love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Tifa is a beautiful woman. Tifa is, is fit. Tifa is, has these qualities that are, appealing in that sort of way, in that sort of way. But she's more than just that, and that's something that, and that's something that Cloud has always seen, and even Zangan, he's seen her from, he sees her for more than just, than just a beautiful girl. He sees her as as somebody who can learn his ways and learn his style and have his knowledge passed on to somebody who could probably surpass him.
Absolutely, because I'm sure most people just look at Tifa like, well, pretty girl, and just kept walking. Zangan was looking at her physically, but he was looking at physical capability. Is she someone who could learn my fighting style? Is she someone who would be able to be capable of it? He wasn't looking at her in obviously, what I'm saying? It was still different, because it didn't have to be sexual, but just like the other adults, I don't think the villagers meant anything sexual by saying the comments about her blossoming into a woman, but that's just all they noticed was oh, she's growing into a lady. She'll probably be married off any day, she'll probably be married off soon enough. That's all they saw. And they didn't take her, and that's another thing with them gossiping as she's trying to teach them. They weren't taking her seriously. Whereas whenever Zangan was trying to teach her, he had her full attention every time. They were just goofing off. Tifa, and just like I said with the hobbies that she gained, her first hobby was reading books. She has always been a studier, and focused and driven. And they go into a lot more of that. He's consistent throughout that. She is always studying, watching, learning, and very self-aware. And so, in a lot of senses, just like with the whole Cloud thing, when she said, I thought Cloud was lonely, but that was presumptuous of me. Now I see it for what it was. Again, a 12, 13-year-old coming up with this stuff. It's it's crazy. Tifa always had the depth. He's just showing so much more of it on the back end, that makes you understand who she is even more, the Tifa that we know. And, man, it's just a great freaking book. I can't even, every time I start reading it again, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Nojima is my personal god. I'm telling you, I'm just like, ugh. My personal Final Fantasy VII god.
Absolutely. This novel just, and, I already had high hopes for, the rest of, the remake trilogy. But this novel really just cemented my faith in him as a scenario writer.
100%.
This, any sort of reservations I had, about his depiction of Tifa have been put to rest by this novel.
100%. And and it is clear, the love he has for Tifa just shines in this. He was so, because he what he chose to write about shows his priorities for her. He wants her to be seen as a serious character, So just as serious as any guy. In fact, at this point, we have more lore. I would say we have more lore for Tifa than any other character, because you also see, it's not just remake and OG and stuff, but you have this book. We got all this lore from the first 15 years of her life. First 20 years. Pretty much right before the game. You see all of that. And then everything that you see in the game. But we also have On the Way to a Smile, which is all from her perspective. You have the stuff in The Kids Are Right, all from her perspective. A lot of having children is from her, or at least involved in her perspective. You see a whole lot. So other than maybe Cloud, we have a lot of lore around her now.
Well, and then even Cloud, a lot of his past is still kind of kept in the shadows. I mean, with the exception of the live stream scene, we really don't know a whole lot about, Cloud's perspective
No.
during their childhood, aside from that.
Nope.
And we still don't even know what Cloud's father's name is. He's still left nameless in this novel.
That's true. That's true. So, yeah, I would say we probably have more information about Tifa than any, certainly of the main, characters. I would say so.
And one thing I think about that I'm reading here in this first 50 pages of this book is that it's what it speaks to, at least to me, is that just like anybody in this world, Tifa wants to be seen. Tifa wants to feel seen. She wants to be seen for who she is. And I love what on the bottom of page 48, this last paragraph, when she's back in the present, she says, "I was becoming a whole new person. My body was getting stronger. I was getting better control of it. I had goals and routines. I was growing up. I guess for the first time, I felt my life was in order." And so she goes on to say, "From then on, Master Zangan began to visit more often. He was still wandering from place to place, so it was hard to know exactly when he'd show up, but he seemed to pass through Nibelheim to see me every 2 months or so. It made me so happy when he complimented my students. It felt like he was praising me." That's the thing, is that that's something, especially in our generation, in our time, more than any other generation, there is a need, and a vocalized need for us as people to be seen for, not for who somebody thinks that you are. Yeah, it's what's the line?
Surface level.
How do I want to say it? Yeah, it's not. It's like I want to see. It's like I want to be seen for who I am, not what I could be to you. That's the that's the
affirmation. Nightmare said affirmation and self-actualization. Okay.
Yeah, and I really did love the way that they expanded on her relationship with Zangan. And it really did, going through Traces of Tupaski and Tifa's portion, you really do get to see Tifa with 3 different father figures, but her relationship with each of these different men, changes. Of course, she has her actual father, Brian, but Zangan also kind of takes almost like a father-like role in her life. And then later on, it seems like Barrett almost kind of takes that role, but he's less of a... He's more of a leader rather than, someone that she feels like she can, learn something from.
Absolutely.
So it's very interesting to see, as she matures more and more, she takes on more of those leadership roles herself, and then she even has to keep Barrett in line sometimes, getting after him for not taking care of Marlene properly.
Yeah. But, guy who's 32 at the time or whatever, 31, 32, all of a sudden has a baby. I'm sure. I'm sure he didn't know what he was doing. So
Chief is like, no. We're going to do this the right way.
That's so funny. What's interesting about this, just real quick side note, what's interesting about that is you don't really see that with Cloud. With at least it's not touched upon and on the way to a smile. You don't see Tifa having to constantly be on him like, oh, this is how you do this is how you do that. Now granted, what was she, 4 by then? So I mean, it's not the same challenges as a 1-2-year-old, but I did find it interesting because he seems to catch on to being a father very quickly. I mean, you can just tell by the way Marlene and Denzel cling on to him. Yeah, it's cute. Anyway.
Well, and the thing is I do think that by that Marlene, I think she was like
4,
5 or 6. Was she 4? Because she's 4 in OG. So
well, I mean, when she went to move with him, yeah. Okay, so after OG, she's 4 to 6, yeah.
Yeah, 4 to 6. But I also think that Tifa also recognizes that Cloud is missing a lot of years of his life. So I think takes it a little bit easier on him than she does on Barrett.
Well, and you know what? I forgot. Like when Denzel came to live with them, he was either 8 or 9. So yeah, I mean it's different. Yeah. So I wasn't trying to knock Barrett as a parent. I'm just saying like I did find that interesting that they don't really touch on Cloud having struggles with them, but they were older than and he wasn't homeless with a kid either. You know what I mean? He had Tifa. Exactly. Tifa already knew how to take care of them. I'm sure she taught him, but and as we know, again, he's showing from the beginning. Tifa has always had this teacher, been a great student and a great teacher. Speaking of, real quick, so last thing I personally want to touch on. Okay, so she said. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Yes, I guess I did. It was sort of a crash course in interacting with all sorts of. Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me start right here. Barrett laughed. Imagine that our star bartender here got her start chatting with a bunch of small town retirees. She said, "Yeah, I guess I did. It was sort of a crash course in interacting with all sorts of different personalities. Fortunately, they seemed to like me. In fact, every day more and more of the villagers were showing up for class. We started calling ourselves the Calisthenics Club. And then Barrett
said... Can I do Barrett's voice over here?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Damn, said Barrett, his voice mystified. That's exactly how it went down at 7th. Damn, it's not good enough today. I had a better Barrett voice yesterday. Shoot.
Mm-hmm. And then Eric motioned eagerly for Barrett to go on. And then so basically Barrett says, it used to be run by an old guy, but then when Tifa started trending, it transformed overnight. Now, yes, part of that, and I think she acknowledges, like, Tifa understands what looks her role plays in some of it, but a lot of it was she was very personable with people, just like the Meebus. She's very personable with people and very good at business. And I think people because this is also another thing. I know they touch on it later. This is much later, so we'll come up to it again. But once again, why there's I just love all the themes in this around just being a woman. I won't even call it feminism. Things around being a woman, what women go through, what struggles women go through in each facet of their life, whether personal, business, etc. Tifa, I believe, does acknowledge the role her looks play in some things, and she's like, okay, like, look, if I'm gonna get a couple more customers because they want to come in here and look at me, smile at them, I'm not doing anything, nothing's going on between us. They want to watch me walk around and smile. I don't care. Hey, look, and that's how I feel. Hey, if me being attractive might get me a job opportunity, and then I prove I can do the job, I don't care. I mean, we can't deny what role attractiveness plays in society, but it seems to only be negatively attached to women. You know what I mean? Because you think Cloud ain't getting jobs out here because I'm sure some women just have him be delivering stuff just because they want to see him again. Like, oh yeah, I need. Oh, that paper is heavy. If you could just deliver it to me, I'd appreciate it. Hey, look, if Cloud Strife was running around my city delivering stuff, I'd be getting, those paper pens. I mean, those pens, they are really heavy. Could you grab me a box of them? Oh, my legs are broken today. Could you, I could use some McDonald's right now. I don't even eat McDonald's. Okay. Anyway,
could you pick up that piece of paper off the floor for me, please?
It's just too much for me to handle.
You'll be getting a threatening letter from someone named Lockhart 2 days later. He's like, okay, you know what? I know what you're trying to pull here.
she like, Tim would be like, you have another delivery to this house? Isn't this the 5th one this week?
And Cloud's like, you know what? Next time I see that number, I'm just gonna let it ring.
That's so funny. Hey, don't speak it up. Another side note, and then we'll finish up anything y'all want to say about the book, and we'll keep it moving. About this portion. So that is something that Cloud and Tifa share to me. I don't know if this is ever confirmed, but just by the way that Cloud acts, I don't think he likes how people treat him based on his looks. I mean, I think like the stuff that Jesse says gets on his nerves, and that people always call him pretty boy, and I think I think this is why he surprises a lot of people in battle, because they just look at him and don't take him seriously. You know what I mean? Like like Rude just being like, oh, this your boy, this your new boy toy. Like, who is this? Who's this blondie right here? And then, but like, yeah, all the girls always, like the Honeybee Inn girls, he was clearly uncomfortable when those Honeybee Inn girls were all over him. He was like, can you let me go? And I'm sure that's part of what was going on in his mind too. Like, like I said, with Jessie and there, was like, what is it that they... Now, Jessie was just flat out clear what her... introverts don't like that shit. Yeah, thank you, Nightmare. They don't like that in general. Yeah, so I'm sure... And Cloud has always wanted to be taken as, like, seriously, and as, like he come back, he wants to be this serious hero that Tifa takes him as, like, oh, he's such a man, and blah, blah, and then got these people, like, look at him. He's a little, I'm sure Cloud does not like some of the attention he gets for his looks. I'm sure he appreciates the attention he gets from Tifa, but
well, that's Tifa's special. But I think again, like what you were saying is that I think is something that Cloud and Tifa both recognize in each other, and that's why they make such a good pair, because they can read each other in a way that nobody else can, and they understand when the other person needs space. Nobody else seems to respect their boundaries, the personal boundaries that they have set up.
No.
And because of that, Cloud and Tifa are able to cross each other's boundaries more than anyone else can, because there is that mutual respect there. They know that no one is going to, like, Cloud knows that Tifa's not going to intrude any further than he allows, and vice versa. So
they know what they want to. They wouldn't want to make each other uncomfortable.
They feel that comfort with each other because they know they're safe with that other person.
Yep, exactly. Nova said he doesn't want that. He doesn't want the attention. Not in that way anyway. He wants his accomplishments to mean something. Exactly. He didn't run off to be a model in Big Army. Like, oh, I'm gonna come back and get Tifa. He's like, I want to be seen as because to be a war hero is to have a certain status and respect.
Yes.
He wanted to be, like I said earlier in the podcast, a man worthy of Tifa. And that is not just about looks. So he wants to, because he said that. He said that in the live stream scene. He said, if I come back as a hero, everyone will respect me, and even Tifa would notice me. Like, people like to parse what's being said in this stuff. You got to look at the whole picture. He ends it with, even Tifa will have to notice me. Okay. Tifa was always the goal.
And all this time she noticed him. It's fun. I love the irony in that sort of in him thinking that, because and the kind and again the congruence of Tifa not be Tifa thinking that he's just this idol, this faraway star amongst that she could never attain, but then she falls in love with him because he's a normal boy, and all he wanted to do is even get Tifa to notice him.
Yes,
and the entire time, the entire time she's had her eye on him ever since they were kids.
They're not even ships passing each other. They're like not even. What's that saying where they're not even missing each other. They're circling each other.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're like, oh, wait, let's just come together. Like, wait a second, we actually want each other. It's not even like two ships passing the night. They're missing each other. It's just like there's always been this unrequited nature to them, except it's actually requited, which is exactly what SE said. But they felt it was unrequited. They were always longing for each other, not realizing all they had to do was like, hey, you want to go out sometime? Which is, again, this is the pain of the slow burn romance. It's just like, just ask the girl on a date, for God's sakes. Like, take off the helmet, damn it, Tifa, I like you. Oh my God, Cloud! Again, they would have been married, 2 kids by 20.
And story's over.
Exactly. But that's exactly why it couldn't happen, and that's also how just to throw a little taste of LTD stuff in here real quick. That is also why, if you really look at it, when you look at how things play out between, if you want to add 3 girls this time with Jesse being in the mix, 2 are already trying to get with trying to get with Cloud, trying to get with Cloud. There's this. It's clear that Tifa, we know, through dramatic irony, we know Tifa's in love with Cloud, but you just see this tension. You see them. There is this closeness that's happening. There is this tension, this romantic tension that's building, but it's building. And so while you have essentially 2 almost mirrored experiences he's having with Jesse and Aerith, that where the women are pursuing him. These 2 are slowly, like I said, circling each other, and they're getting closer and closer. They're not quite. Neither wants to quite cross that line, and then that's why, the second Cloud even feels like he's crossing the line. She had to tell him to let go because she was damn near dying. It's like. Your Mako arms are killing me right now. I do have to breathe at some point.
Yeah. Well, and one of the great things I love about it is that he is pursuing her as much as she's pursuing him.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
He's not pursuing any of these other girls. They're chasing after him, but he's going after Tifa because she's been his goal.
Yeah, and that's how. And what I'm saying is, so if you're just looking at it from that angle. If you're looking at this at these different relationships that are going on, and I mean relationship in the literal sense of the word, you don't see him putting the effort with Aerith or Jesse. You see no effort really that he's putting with Tifa. And the second Tifa gives a little, like he's closing in further, to the point where he's practically spilling his guts out to the whole team in Northern Crater to Tifa. You know what I mean? Oh, you've been so good to me. I'm so sorry, Miss Tifa, and I hope you see the real Clouds. I mean, the whole team is standing there as he's, and then in North Crater in the Nibelheim part.
Just before he gives the black materia.
Yeah, like only your opinion matters to me, and Nova said, especially you, Miss Tifa. He always is singling her out in the group, but during the Nibelheim thing, he's like, and
that's something. And the part of the Japanese script that kind of breaks my heart as well too. That I'm sorry, especially you, Miss Tifa. It's I think if I'm remembering correctly, he actually said he throughout the entire script he says Tifa, just her name, Tifa. But that's the only time he actually attaches an honorific to her, Tifa-san.
Yeah, as as you would a stranger almost, like I've just met you, hi, Miss Tifa, because he thinks he's not real. Yeah, but himself, only your opinion matters to me. Your words are what keep me, you said no long time, no see Cloud or whatever. Those words keep me going. I mean, these are damn near love confessions happening, and Baird or whatever poor sap is just sitting there like, what the hell is happening right now? Do y'all need to be excused? And Nightmare mentions Tifa actually is the one to end most of the romantic interactions, and so you would think, again, this is how you know the trajectory, because Cloud is actually calling her beautiful and all this, and rolling around on train tracks with her, and all this other stuff that's going on.
Giving her flowers.
And all these compliments. I mean, you would be good at walking a tightrope. I mean, the man is just trying to come up with ways to compliment her. Goofy, dorky ways that are just adorable as hell. But it's not happening. It's not because Tifa doesn't want something, but you see there is something more happening under the surface that they just haven't explained yet. That is the difference. Anyway, now I just went on a whole tangent. So this ain't about Trace 2 Passing Boys. Okay. Is there anything else? The calisthenics, Seventh Heaven. And one day we just got to go down all the parallels between Nibelheim Sector 7 because there's a lot. I think this is a good place to start to end. I know we didn't quite get to page 50. We got pretty close, and we're going on almost 3 hours. So, is there anything specific you wanted to go over? Maybe we can end on the letter. Yeah, this is where Emilio sent the letter.
Oh, sure, yeah. What page would that be?
So it says let's start with within a month of establishing the calisthenics club, and then end on the end of the letter, or not the end of the letter, but where it says Tifa out for a day of training. Let's see. Let me see if I can find this page 40-ish. Because this is more of showing that Cloud is different to her than the other boys. And it's under one of those squigglies. Oh, here it is. Page 42. So go to page 42.
Oh, there we go. Yep. There it is. Yep. All right.
To the end of the page.
Within a month. Oh, yep. Yeah. You want me to start?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Within a month of establishing the calisthenics club, Tifa's daily routine had changed completely. Morning was spent guiding her students. Afternoon was dedicated to reading books and studying arithmetic. In the early evening, she'd hike up to the mountain to train in solitude, always returning home by sundown to keep her father from worrying. At night, just before bed, she pored over Zangan's booklet, committing the forms to memory and pondering each and every line for any detail she may have overlooked. Around that time, a letter arrived from Emilio. It told of his new life in the city. He wrote about the noise, the food, the staggering gap between the rich and the poor. He lamented the differences in values, the things he'd grown up treasuring that were dismissed as provincial by the people of Midgar. Everything was new, and everything was bewildering. I know it sounds rough, he wrote, but whenever I'm about to lose hope, I think of you. I dream about the day I'll make it back to Nibelheim and take you away. That's why I decided to write about the parts of the city life that are surprising or difficult to cope with. I want to help you be ready for when you start your new life here with me. The contents had Tifa fuming. Who did Emilio think he was deciding Tifa's future all by himself? The same day the letter came, let me try it again. Who did Emilio think he was, deciding Tifa's future all by himself? The same day the letter came, Zangan returned. He walked into the village casually, straight up to Tifa's door, as if he were now part of the community. Brian was the one to answer. Puzzled, yet courteous, he acquiesced when Zangan asked permission to invite Tifa out for a day of training. The wandering master led Tifa up to the location of their first encounter. When they reached the bank of the Gunthra and set down their bags, Tifa looked her teacher straight in the eyes.
Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to see. Okay. So, let's just stick with Emilio's saying. So next book club, we will start around here. Okay. But yeah, that letter is Emilio saying, I'm going to come and rescue you. Now, that's exactly what Tifa asked Cloud to do. But she's insulted no, this isn't exactly what she asked, but you get what I'm saying. If I'm ever in trouble or whatever, come and save me. Emilio thinks this is...
Yeah, she basically. I mean, like the way I've always interpreted it is that that was her way of saying, "Don't go, stay with me," or if you have to go, go. If you have to go, go because I respect you I respect you as a person. But if you're gonna go, come back for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it's in that same vein of a thought, you know. So when Emilio is writing this, he's thinking that he's really doing something like, oh, I'm gonna promise to come and rescue her and whisk her away out of here and da da da. And Tifa's like, who are you? Like, who do you think you are? Nova said, bye, Emilio. So yeah, again, no, Jim was just knocking these things out the park. It's like, no, she's not just looking for anybody to come and rescue her. She's not looking for a hero. She's looking for her hero. And also, I don't even think Tifa necessarily wanted to leave Neva. I don't know that she didn't want to leave it, but Amelia's just assuming that she wants to leave. Assuming that she must have a terrible life in Nibelheim.
I think that was the issue.
Yeah.
Too, is this
the sense of entitlement. Like he thought that he was entitled to her, and he thought that basically not giving her any say in the matter, and she hated that.
And that does sound a little familiar, but I won't go there.
Do I get a say in all this?
Yep.
Sounds eerily familiar.
Oh my god.
Very
If you
nice.
want
Very
that,
nice.
I will.
Very nice.
All right. Well, we're about to burn this podcast as well. All right. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, you got.
behave.
But
I'll
seriously though,
behave.
Cloud said, "Quit acting like you know me." Like these are two things that I think Tifa and Cloud are tired of people for whatever reason just making assumptions about what they want, and that's why. And it's not against Eric, to be clear. I'm just saying there is a difference in the way that these two consider each other's feelings. They try to consider each other's feelings first. I think that's just a contrast that they're trying to show between Cloud and Tifa versus just other people. Because, like I said, Tifa, when she was younger, she assumed that Cloud must be lonely. Cloud must be this, Cloud must be that. And then she's like, that was pretty arrogant of me to just assume how he felt. Maybe he just didn't feel like being bothered with things he didn't want to be bothered with. Well, who am I to just attribute these feelings onto him? And so, yeah, I mean, it's not to call Aerith out specifically. It's just a great example that you can't follow those. Like, you gonna ask me how I feel, or what? And then quit acting like you know me, stuff like that. And Jesse was always trying to drag him around and tell him, hey, you want to do. It's just and I would say other characters.
My favorite line: "Are you seriously that desperate?"
I can't.
Love it.
Brutal. Brutal.
Actually, speaking to something that both you, Stitch and Monk were saying about Tifa not necessarily wanting to leave town. There's something that actually from page 41. She was talking about when we were talking about the old folks, like talking about her body and stuff like that. It says there's the last paragraph in that section. At the end of the day, in the moments before sleep took hold, Tifa imagined that someday it might be the same for her. Perhaps she'd grow old in Nibelheim, reveling in the memory of the past and juicy tales of the village's latest goings-on. She'd eagerly pass the things she heard on to the next pair of waiting ears, living out her days on repeat. She'd find herself a permanent fixture of the village and eventually one more piece of its history. So there's a part of her that's like that. I think when I'm reading that part, it feels like she's like maybe she doesn't want to leave town, but if she does stay, she also kind of sees what her life would be like, and maybe that conflicts her, maybe that doesn't conflict her, but she obviously never gets the opportunity to see what her life would be like had she stayed in town.
Did you take that passage to be negative or positive? I actually was taking. I thought she was saying it positively, like, oh, maybe I'll relay these stories to other villagers or something. But I see why you would, considering what was going on beforehand. I do see how you might see that might be a negative passage too. I don't know.
I don't see, that's the thing. I don't see that passage particularly as positive or negative. It's something that she considers because it's like there's trust me. For instance, if I to share a little bit about me. I love Toronto. I love everything about this city. I love the nightlife. I love the food. I love the people. I love the sports. I love the scenery. And man, when I fly above the city, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. I love this place, but at the same time, there's also a part of me that I was in LA. I was talking about this a couple months ago. I was in LA to watch Who's, and I loved vibe of LA. I love the vibe of Hollywood, and I was thinking, and there's always a part of me that thinks, maybe what would happen to me if at 18 I decided to go and move to Hollywood and get like a waiter's job so I could pursue my acting career over there, as opposed to staying in Toronto and having my life turn out the way it is right now. Like thinking about the different paths in life. So it's not when I read that passage, it's not necessarily a positive or negative. She's just considering what her life could be like in some sense, and what her life maybe could be like in another.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I read that passage earlier and forgot about it, but yeah, that's a great point to bring that up. Yeah, the point is she wants to make the decision. You know, she don't want some dude telling her where she's gonna live. I mean, you know, and that again, all these pieces that just tie in for Cloudy here and there. They were making the decision where they wanted to live together after OG. You know, because they do visit Nibelheim at some point, and then they decide on Edge at some point. You know, these were decisions they were making together.
To me, that passage came across as rather neutral. To me, it just seemed more like Tifa was musing about the future more than anything. Not necessarily dreading it or even looking forward to it, just kind of thinking about it. To me, Tifa is more of a people person, so to me it seemed more that she was more concerned about who she was going to spend her life with rather than where she spent her life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. She seems like a the person you're with is your home, not necessarily where you're at. And I think that's how Cloud is. I mean, Cloud, if he wasn't in love with Tifa, I mean, he probably would just be I don't know what the term is you would use these days.
He would be exactly like his father. He'd be a wanderer.
Yeah, He'd be a wanderer, I think.
Traveling around aimlessly without Tifa to center him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tifa is his true north
anchor.
Or whatever. His,
Yeah.
True
north. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, that's his
as Canadian,
for
I like
instance,
that.
Yeah. So if Tifa had decided to say, for instance, if Midgar hadn't been destroyed and Tifa wanted to stay in Sector 7, I think he would have been fine with that. He still would have been able to travel where he wanted to. They still could travel whenever they wanted to, but then Sector 7 would be home, and they just build a better home in there. I mean, this is essentially what they were doing in there. It's like, okay, we staying here, so we're gonna make it home. You know?
I mean, an interesting piece of dialogue, you know, and of course this is like foreshadowing. For, you know, of course, Advent children are rather on the way to a smile when they rebuild the bar, but it's kind of interesting how Cloud is already talking about rebuilding the bar with Tifa as early as remake.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're already making plans, and he's like, oh yeah. And then he kind of smugly says, oh, for a price. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to charge Tifa. Give me a break.
Well, the price is Tifa. His way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't looking for money.
What? Could have been living with her.
Well, and you know what? And this is... Okay, we don't end on this, and I'm going to get myself in trouble again, but I just say it's part of the conversation. So when Chocobo Sam wants to give him something in return for doing the bombshell, whatever, that side quest, he says, I'm not here for the money, tell me about Tifa. The whole bombing mission thing. Yeah, he's talking about money, but the second Tifa bats those eyes, oh, I don't need any more money. Don't worry about it. The 1,500 is fine as long as Bear gives it to me. Don't worry about it. And if you look at Tifa's menu, 2,000 gil. I mean, if you play the Final Fantasy game, I'm sorry, 2,000 gil is jack shit. Absolutely nothing. Hey, Chasandi, you can't buy half a damn anything with 2,000 gil. I'm not about to be an enemy of the state for 2,000 gil. Okay, he was clearly doing it for Tifa. Like for him, and other than those two things, money's not even brought up really around them anymore. And in fact, there's on the flip side, Tifa knows that he's blowing money trying to do negotiations after OG, trying to learn how to negotiate. And she's like, even though he's paying absurd amounts for certain items, the experience that he's gaining as a person and the confidence that he's getting from it is worth the money, you know? So like, yeah, money has never been really anything like like it starts out seeming that way. So it seems weird, but Cloud killed Sephiroth over because he didn't ask for money then. Like, you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, when other people are trying to give him a romantic gift instead of money, he's like, I'd rather get paid. The pay sucks. Blah blah blah. I want my money. It's like they're just parallels and contrasts everywhere. If you just look for them, people just need to scratch beneath the surface and see things for what is actually happening. Stop reading into it. I mean, well, maybe read into it. I don't know which one it is. If people aren't reading into it or reading into it, I don't know. But it's pretty clear. Yeah.
Exactly, and I like what Nightmare is saying over here. Tifa is always associated with home when it comes to Cloud, including
Yes.
her theme. And Supernova says her theme signals that he feels calm and at home. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just and that's exactly what Matsu was talking about as well. Is that he wanted to establish that familiarity with immediately in that start of the game, that familiarity, that home, which is the reason why you have the main theme of Final Fantasy playing when you are when you're exploring Sector 3,
Sector seven.
or
Sector
sorry,
seven.
Sector 7, Chapter 3, Sector 7,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because he wants you to feel home, and coming with that, when the first time you see Tifa, it's like the camera just like you can't do it, like you can walk around and listen and eavesdrop, but the camera
The
just
camera just.
focuses right on her, focus
Yes.
on her, and then the quick zoom as soon as you get to a certain point, that quick zoom right into her,
Mm-hmm.
right to her face. It's just I mean, like, it's that's exactly what Cloud is. That's exactly what Cloud is focused on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Nightmare brings up another great point. And I do have to go after this. I'm sorry. uh, yeah, when you talk about themes of home, so like I said, you have all these parallels between Nibelheim and Sector 7 as far as, like, you could think of the Four Fiends versus Avalanche, but now you're looking at grown Tifa who knows how who really knows how to handle Cloud a lot better, and knows and has a better idea of how to get him into, get him a little closer, and gain those connections that she really wasn't sure what to do about the situation, because she couldn't figure out what the problem was. Where these are fresh new people, there's no history, and she knows Cloud is a little close off, but she's still easing them into, hey, it's, you don't have to be everybody's best friend, but it's good to have connections and people you can count on. It's not about
Hmm.
being the social butterfly, or the party, the life of the party or anything, but it's nice
Hmm.
to have people who will have your back, and there's stuff like that. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Yes, Nightmare said that even the main theme itself, the main theme, he knows because he heard Tifa playing it on her piano as a child. So that still is a reference to home.
Hmm.
And Toriyama said they wanted to play main theme, like you said, in Sector 7 because they wanted to feel like your home base. So yeah, there's a lot of themes associated with home with them, and always a
Okay,
hope.
one quick question before we close out.
Mm-hmm.
Do
All right.
you think they will keep that in the future part? Do you think that they're going to keep him learning that theme and you having to play that theme on Tifa's piano, or at least a reference to it?
I think we will see. I think what is more likely to happen is some type of flashback at some point. Maybe Cloud is walking past Tifa's house and looks up at her window, or something like that. Or maybe in the calm flashback, he looks at the piano and he remembers hearing Tifa playing the song or something like that. I don't know that they'll actually have you play the song, but considering that there's a piano thing in Tifa's room, Tifa's piano lore is going to be explored, as expanded on, as Nightmare said, and like she's got a piano poster in her room. I don't see them just taking that out entirely. They're going to make some reference to it, and there's going to be some reference in relation to Cloud. Whether she ends up playing the piano for Cloud, like they sneak into her house when they go back into Nibelheim and she plays, or something like that. I don't know what form it's going to take, but they're absolutely going to reference it. Now, whether Cloud yourself, like you're going to get your final limit break that way, I don't know what they're going to do this time around as far as final limit breaks. Because the mechanics are entirely different now. So like you don't have the whole thing where you have to kill a certain amount of bad guys before you go to the next level and all that other stuff. I just don't know, to be honest with you. What you think, Lex? Hey, Mesm.
I Hello, and well, no, as you took the words right out of my mouth, it's definitely going to be there because it is, it's one of those subtle things that that were in OG that when you extrapolate it and look at it from the completed perspective, it makes total sense that that because that is another one of the little clues that Cloud and Tifa are meant to be together. That they are meant to be each other's home because of the fact that, like, yeah, again, you're exploring this world in like in the OG. You're exploring the world, and you're out in the world map, and you hear the main theme. And the thing is that what you hear when you go home to Nibelheim is, and you remember Tifa playing the piano, Tifa learning that piece. It's too much of a parallel. It has to go hand in hand with each other.
There are so many clues when you peel back the layers. So many clues of who Cloud was always meant to be with. This really is amazing that anybody misses this to me. I just, like, if you really, well, again, casuals or whatever is fine, but if you really analyze the game, they are telling you left and right who the love interest is. I mean, just it's insanely layered.
Yeah. And in the OG, it's like the mini game is you play the main theme. You're not playing. You're not playing Aerith's theme, as beloved as Aerith's theme is. You're not playing Aerith's theme.
You're not playing
piano.
her theme, Tifa's theme. I mean, even Tifa's theme. You're not playing Tifa's. You're playing the main theme, and the way you know it is through Tifa. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's just like, come on. Yeah. And then, like, the map is considered, in a sense, a home, like where it's playing the map, it's hard to explain, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
well, yeah, and it's interesting that, like, it's interesting that in a way that once Meteor is and I know this isn't a perfect comparison or anything like that. When Meteor is released and everything, of course, you get, like, the brooding music, the suspenseful music, whatever, like that. Yeah, it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong. When Cloud is rescued from the life stream, and they're about to go into the northern crater, does the main theme reset back after Cloud gets out of the live stream? Does anybody remember that?
Honestly, I have no idea. Nightmare just played it. She might remember. I do know the main theme, and doesn't the main theme.
The theme is replaced by the high wind theme once you get the high wind.
Yeah.
Oh no! When you're
there's this upbeat. As far as walking around on the map, you know what? That's actually a dang good question. I usually fly around in the highway. That's always the theme that plays when I'm traveling the map.
She said when you're Nightmare said when you're on the ground after the live stream saying no, it's still a brooding music.
Okay.
So she literally just replayed it. So yeah, she'd be the best. Now, Tifa's theme and the main theme also play at the end when he does the catch of her and everything. That's Tifa's theme and the main theme as well, right there. So, but anyway, we just went off to a random. Sorry. Yeah, so honestly, great book. I mean, it's so hard to. I know. I said I was trying to be ambitious, like, oh, maybe we'll get to page 75 or something. It's like, no, there's so much, and this is my closing. There's so much to Tifa's portion of this book. And I'm sure there's a lot we missed just because we were trying not to spend too much time on every single thing. We'd be here for 9 hours if we did. Okay, it's just an incredible side of the story. I'm trying to think of any real complaints. I really can't think of too many. I mean, especially if I'm talking about stuff not related to the English. That fluffy thing, that will go down in translation hell history. Okay.
I mean, of all the names they could have picked, they had to pick Fluffy. She's not even a fluffy cat. She's a short-haired cat. Come on, man.
I could have at least. I mean, oh my god.
But that's the thing.
I mean,
well, I guess they couldn't name it Cloud. I guess that would have been too.
That would have been a little too on the nose, but yeah.
But that's the fun thing of that's interesting thing, as I was mentioning earlier, that, like, Maru sounds like, something like death or misfortune or whatever like that, or yeah, so it's like, yeah, like you named the cat this, but, like, there's probably a better name that you could choose, and then you put Fluffy in there, just like, what the It was
Oh,
fluffy.
what the fluffy is
Yeah,
that?
Exactly. It's exactly. I'm just like, maybe that's maybe that's how it feels like. I don't, and I would, and I don't want to presume, but then like I'm pretty sure that like there's a part of it that's like, yeah, there may be a better name than Maruth than this for this cat.
I don't know. Maru seems like a gold star name in comparison. I don't know.
Again, it could also be that we have been looking at the Japanese translation for 2 years up to this point. So now that name is just kind of cemented in our brains. So now that they've come out with Fluffy, now it's like nails on a chalkboard by the time you see it.
I was reminded of Billy Bob all over again. I was like, Billy Bob?
I was reminded of Gabriel Iglesias, honestly. So
I was like, Billy Bob? What kind of name is that? I mean, I'm talking about intermission. I was like, Nayo, whatever that other kid's name was, and Billy Bob. Taylor, well, I think it was Taylor, but that's all right, or whatever the hell it was. Anyway, all right. Now we're rambling. Okay, so, I appreciate it. Tifa the Monk and Lex Tan. You can catch them many places. Lex particular, if you want to go down your places where people can reach you.
Yeah, on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at LexTan Media. You can if you're a wrestling fan, you can watch, or so you could you can listen to my radio show podcast called Ringside Heat, which airs Sundays at 7 p.m. on saga960am.ca, and as well on Spotify on the Monday after it airs. And also just look for me on Facebook as well too. Bald dude, glasses, Asian guy, yeah. Lex Tan, just as it is right over there on the screen.
Awesome. And Mark, I know you're on Twitter, you're on YouTube, right?
Yes, yeah. I have a rather dead YouTube channel that needs to be. It's a little bit of a revival, and I need to toss a few Phoenix Downs on it. But yeah, I mean, I'm most active on Twitter at Tifa the Monk. I do have other social media, like a Tumblr and an Instagram that I don't frequent very often. But you will also find me also on the Under the Stars Discord. That is the Discord server I run. But it's just a fun little community for Tifa and Cloudy fans. So,
and and at Cloud Tifa events. If you're a Cloudy, go to at Cloud Tifa events on Twitter. We are running Tifa Month. Tifa's birthday is coming up on May 3rd. And so what we will be doing is events we'll be doing an event day once a week. It's Wednesdays, right, Monk?
Yes.
Yes.
Every Wednesday of the month of May is dedicated to Tifa Lockhart because that is her birthday month, and we're dedicating the entire month to her. So every Wednesday is a different prompt. So yes, visit the Cloud and Tifa events Twitter and look at our pinned tweet for all the details on that.
Yes, hashtag Tifa Month. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, had a great time. Thank you, Supernova. Love you too, girl. Thank you, Nightmare. Everyone else that joined, Meza, Chisandi. There were some people that joined earlier as well. Really appreciate it. And I will let y'all know, just stick with my Twitter. Again, Stitchy and Stilettos Gamer, aka Stitchy and Sis. Check my pinned Twitter tweet. That was a bit of a tongue twister. Check it for the next time I'll be streaming. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Take care.